Chapter 878. One water and one fire, the two perfectly fused into one. As it lay on Suyu's palm, it emitted a cool and refreshing feeling. The fire essence within it did not burn Suyu at all. This was the state of balance that the ancient book required. Not a single drop of the essence of the fire pith was lost. Only by wrapping it in a water-attributed treasure could it be safely fused into the body. The next step was the final process. Suyu swallowed the crimson and emerald teardrop, and a cool and refreshing feeling spread throughout his whole body. The teardrop seeped into Suyu's blood vessels and entered Suyu's heart. Suyu immediately revolved his vital energy according to the ancient book, slowly refining the teardrop and turning it into a part of his body. This process took a long time, and it was only on the second day that Suyu slowly opened his eyes, which were filled with wisps of flames. A pair of faintly discernible fiery red wings flashed behind his back. At the same time, an astonishing heat wave radiated from the room. The few first-grade Almighty who were guarding outside the house were horrified, and they retreated hurriedly, heading towards the house where Suyu was training in isolation. What was that heat wave just now? How could there be such a high temperature? What did Su Yushin do inside? The almighty divine masters were extremely shocked. Their intuition told them that Suyu was fiddling with a dangerous flame in the house, a terrifying flame that could directly destroy them. Among the group of almighty divine masters, only the second-grade almighty felt slightly better, but they were still bewildered. Inside the house, Suyu wore a faint smile. After a whole day and night of refining, Suyu had finally refined the teardrop successfully. The teardrop still existed in his heart, and as long as Suyu willed it, the fire essence in the teardrop would release a part of its flame energy, which would then be expressed through Suyu's body. What satisfied Suyu was that the attribute of the Chalcedony was flight. Yes, the pair of flaming wings behind Suyu's back was a symbol of that. Moreover, it wasn't an ordinary pair of wings. From what he had seen in that brief glimpse just now, the speed he had erupted with had very likely surpassed that of a mid-stage divine master, and was comparable to a late-stage divine master. In other words, as long as Suyu wasn't hunted down by a late-stage divine master, he could easily escape. What was most important to a martial artist? Cultivation method? Magic treasure? Or was it cultivation? None of them. His life was the most important. The deeper one cultivated, the more they understood this logic. As the saying goes, the older one is in Jianghu, the more timid they become. Until the fire essence was used up, Suyu would have a life-saving talisman. Was there anything more useful than this? I really have to thank Gongsun Wuxia and Fairy Ling. I haven't felt the advantage of speed in a long time. Suyu revealed a faint smile. It had been a long time since he had last cultivated a movement technique, and now that he had once again obtained the characteristics of the fire essence jade, he was quite satisfied. Shopkeeper Su, I've already invited the pill vendors on the list according to your request, Ing Luan said from outside the house. 5 days had already passed, and Ing Luan had already invited the elixir vendors, who had risked their lives to give Suyu elixirs when the Tonglin elixir store had been banned. The leader of this group was the famous Huang clan. They were ranked 4th among all the elixir vendors in the city, and they were only below Bright Moon Householder. A total of 2 people from the Huang family had come. One was the Huang family's patriarch, and the other was the current patriarch, Elder Huang's son. In the past, when Elder Huang had been in the Tonglin elixir store, he had overruled all of his family's objections and given the Tonglin elixir store an expensive elixir worth of 50,000 crystals, which had saved Suyu from being expelled. Now, the Tonglin elixir store was like the sun in the sky, and it had become the focal point of the whole city. Many fairy experts, as well as early-stage divine master experts, wanted to meet Suyu, but couldn't. It was a great honor for them to receive Suyu's invitation at such a time. Elder Huang, along with the other people who had been invited, waited outside the courtyard. Suyu's eyes flickered, and he waved his hand to suppress the fire element aura in the house. He then said, "Sirs, please come in." This was Suyu's first time meeting them. The last time they had come, Suyu hadn't given them a chance to meet. Greetings, Shopkeeper Su. Elder Huang's eyes shone brightly, and he couldn't help but size up Su Yu. Su Yu smiled and waved his hand. You don't have to be so polite. Sirs, please take a seat. I invited you here today because I need your help. The peddlers pricked up their ears. To be honest, they had helped Su Yu in the beginning because Su Yu had won the favor of Alliance Master Zhao of the Elixir Alliance. That was why they helped him, hoping to get some benefits from the Elixir Alliance. However, the current Tonglin Elixir store could not be mentioned in the same breath as it was in the past. Its daily elixir sales were an astronomical figure. In the eyes of outsiders, the martial artists at the entrance had all come for the heart-refining mortal dust liquid. However, they were acutely aware that the Tonglin Elixir store's ordinary elixirs also sold a lot of them. The flow of people was equal to the flow of money. This was an unbreakable truth since the ancient times. With more people, business would naturally be easier. Every day, at least 80,000 to 90,000 martial artists would gather in front of Su Yu's elixir store. Moreover, they were all wealthy martial artists who could afford the heart-refining mortal dust liquid. They lingered around for a long time, so they would naturally linger around the other pills in the pill store. Even if only a few people bought them, there were still too many people. Therefore, sales were booming every day. The heart-refining mortal dust liquid was sold for 100,000 crystals in one day, but very few people knew that the ordinary elixirs were sold for 80,000 crystals in 5 days. This kind of sales was even scarier than that of a high-grade elixir store. If they could become the Tonglin Elixir store supplier, it would be like a meat pie falling from the sky. Shopkeeper Su, please speak. We will surely do our best. Old Huang chuckled. Their Huang family had contributed the most that day, so it was only natural that they would receive greater benefits. Su Yu then said, the elixir store has run out of elixirs, and we are suffering from a lack of supply. Hence, I would like to ask you to help us by providing us with usable elixirs for sale. It was really about this matter. All of them were extremely excited, and they all paid close attention to Su Yu, fearing that they would miss even a single word. We will surely do our best. Shopkeeper Su, please tell us how much you need, how you will supply it, and what are the prices. Old Huang heaved a long sigh of relief. The 50,000 crystals that he had risked his life to pay had finally paid off. Su Yu then handed over a list to each of them, which he had prepared beforehand. It's quite simple. The 5 of you will divide the supply equally, and each of you will provide the same amount of supply. This is a list of the elixirs that you will provide, and their prices are all listed on it. They're all market prices, so you won't suffer any losses. You can look at the list after you leave. Old Huang's expression stiffened slightly, but he quickly regained his composure and took the list with a smile. He had accepted it calmly, but his son couldn't. He couldn't help but feel indignant as he asked, Shopkeeper Su, may I ask what is the basis for such a division? Su Yu replied calmly, it's obviously based on how much you have helped us before. If that's the case, then why did my Huang family provide you with elixirs that cost 50,000 crystals? Why do we only get the same amount as them? According to what I know, the highest value of the elixirs that they have provided us was only 5,000 crystals. It's really hard for the Huang family to accept such a division. So you looked at him calmly. If you aren't satisfied, you can refuse to supply us and let them deal with the supply. He couldn't help but feel indignant. Just as he was about to refute Su Yu, Old Huang glared at him, and he reluctantly shut his mouth. Since there's nothing else, I won't send you off, Su Yu said as he closed his eyes. The group of elixir peddlers left in high spirits. They all felt like they had just received a great deal. Even if they took out 20% of the 80,000 crystals every month, that would still be 16,000 crystals. In a single year, they would be able to earn more than 200,000 crystals. This was a great deal. Among the crowd, only the Huang family didn't look too happy. Haha, Old Huang, we should be thanking you. Back then, it was your generous gift of elixirs that helped the Tonglin Elixir store recover. Without you, we wouldn't be where we are today. His words were full of sarcasm. The Huang family had given out such a huge gift, yet the return they received was equal to theirs. Old Huang was calm, and he chuckled. However, his son couldn't stay calm. The more he thought about it, the more aggrieved and resentful he felt. "Father, how can our Huang family swallow this insult? If word gets out, we'll become a laughing stock. I don't think that Su Yuxian is a good person. He's ungrateful." Old Huang's eyes turned cold. "Shut up. The elixirs that our Huang family gave out were no more than 50,000 crystals, but the supply he provided us is 16,000 crystals every month, which doubled our family's income every month. It only takes 3 to 4 months for us to earn back our investment. Are you still not satisfied?" Old Huang saw through everything. "Where can you find such a cheap deal? You should be content with what you have." Although he knew his father's rebuke was reasonable, he still found it hard to accept it. "Then why can't he let my Huang family take a few more shares? Since ancient times, there's been no need to worry about the scarcity, but at his age, he doesn't even understand this principle." Oomph. He grumbled in his heart, thinking that when he returned to the clan would definitely be filled with complaints. Elder Huang was silent and sighed softly. "Forget it. Think of everything on the bright side. With this business, our Huang family can finally take a breather and not be pushed out of Sky Border City by a few alchemists. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't disappointed when Suyu assigned him the task. However, since things had come to this, he could only resign himself to fate." As he sighed, Old Huang opened the list given to him by Suyu. He had expected that it would be a few common elixirs. Who would have thought that there would only be one type of medicinal pill on the list? Elder Huang was stunned. Could it be that the Huang clan only had one type of medicinal pill? His heart couldn't help but sink. But when he saw the words clearly, Old Huang's eyes narrowed into slits. His eyes flickered intensely, showing the excitement in his heart. The son noticed his father's strange expression and looked at him in surprise. "What's wrong, father?" The heart-refining mortal dust liquid." He cried out in alarm, causing the few peddlers, who had just walked far away, to shiver. They all turned to look at the Huang family's father and son. "The heart-refining mortal dust liquid? What heart-refining mortal dust liquid? What are you talking about?" The few peddlers were all shrewd people, so how could they not notice that something was amiss? They all walked over to take a look at the list. Old Huang folded the paper and put it in his sleeve casually. He then chuckled and said, "It's nothing. My son just lost his tongue for a moment." As he spoke, the father and son left the outer city at a moderate pace. When they returned to their house in the inner city, they immediately closed the gate and ordered the guards to stand guard outside, forbidding any outsiders from entering. Father, did I see it wrong? Is it really the heart-refining mortal dust liquid? What does shopkeeper Su mean? Does he want us to supply the heart-refining mortal dust liquid?" The Huang family's master's mouth trembled as the shocking words lingered in his mind. He had also changed the way he addressed Su Yu from Su Yuxian to shopkeeper Su. Chapter 879. As he spoke, Old Huang opened the list once again, and the words heart-refining mortal dust liquid appeared clearly before his eyes. "It's really it." The Huang family's master panicked. "Father, what does shopkeeper Su mean? How can we possibly supply such a spiritual liquid?" Old Huang squinted his eyes and pinched the list, causing it to turn into ashes. However, a wisp of compressed vital energy reverberated from the ashes and condensed into a voice. "Huang family's master, please choose an intermediate alchemist and prepare to refine the heart-refining mortal dust liquid in 1 day. There are 450 batches of ingredients in total, and a senior will deliver them to you. You just need to refine the elixirs and hand them over to the Tonglin elixir store. I will give you 1,200 crystals for each elixir." The voice stopped there, but the Huang family's master was so shocked that he couldn't speak for a long time. After a long while, he stammered, "Shopkeeper Su wants our Huang family to refine the heart-refining mortal dust liquid and supply it to the Tonglin elixir store? Are you dreaming?" The heart-refining mortal dust liquid was a legendary spiritual liquid, and they had never even thought about it. They were well aware of the extent to which the people in the city had gone crazy over the spiritual liquid. No one would be willing to share the profits with others, but Suyu had done so. Old Huang was shocked, and after a long while, a smile appeared on his face. Our Huang family can finally gain a firm foothold. With the help of such a spiritual elixir, all the martial artists in the city would give him face. Moreover, the Huang family had the right to choose the elixirs for refining. So even the Elixir Alliance would be unable to resist the temptation of refining such an ancient spiritual liquid. Those alchemists who wanted to ostracize the Huang family might end up begging the Huang family. In the past, it was the Huang family who begged the Elixir Alliance's alchemists to refine elixirs. Now, it was the alchemists who begged the Huang family. Chun informed the few alchemists in the Elixir Alliance that I have an important matter to discuss with them. Old Huang's eyes flickered with joy. Also, asked the ancestor to come out of seclusion and guard the family. Now that the fate of our family is at stake, we have to wake him up. The Huang family's master understood his father's intention. He wanted to choose a large number of alchemists to refine elixirs. Once Su Yu's materials arrived, the Huang family could start refining the heart-refining mortal dust liquid. As for what they would do if Su Yu did not give them the materials, they would keep it a secret until the moment they got the materials. They would never spread the news to anyone else, so as to avoid unnecessary trouble. For their Huang family, it was equivalent to hiring some middle-stage alchemists. They had no capital but great profits. Every elixir could earn them at least 1,000 crystal stones. 450 elixirs meant 450,000 crystal stones. This was the Huang family's income for the past few years. Moreover, Su Yu would continue to receive orders, and every order would be a huge profit. To put it bluntly, this was a big deal that would change the fate of the family. This deal was enough to invite the old ancestor, who had been in seclusion all year round, to come out and oversee the clan. He had the cultivation of a fourth-grade almighty, and coupled with the fact that he knew many middle-stage almighty friends in the city who would dare to have any designs on them, the entire Huang family began to move. They saw a turning point in the family's fate. As for the mastermind behind all of this, he went into seclusion again. Su Yu had his own considerations, and his ultimate goal in coming to Tianya City wasn't to make elixirs, but to earn merit points. As long as he could improve the Tonglin Elixir Store's performance, he would naturally be able to earn merit points. Now that everything was on the right track, he didn't need to do it himself. As for the insignificant elixir-making process, he could just leave it to the Huang family. This way, he could save his time for cultivation. As for whether the heart-refining mortal dust liquid would leak out, Su Yu wasn't worried at all. The most important thing was that the heartbroken zither grass was in Su Yu's hands. As long as he removed the seeds from every single one of them, it wouldn't matter even if outsiders got their hands on the heartbroken zither grass, as they wouldn't be able to reproduce it. Therefore, even though it seemed like the heart-refining mortal dust liquid had been handed over to outsiders, it was still under Su Yu's control. He could produce as much heart-refining mortal dust liquid as he pleased, and he could produce it whenever he wanted. He could also hand it over to whomever he wanted to make it. Everything was under Su Yu's control. However, it wasn't easy for Su Yu to cultivate in peace. A mysterious person appeared in Su Yu's courtyard soundlessly. On the other side, Qing Lu had followed Su Yu's instructions and gone to the elixir meet on his behalf. The whole place was filled with respectable shopkeepers, and only the Tonglin Elixir Store seat was occupied by a small shop assistant. It was a stark contrast, and it was extremely ironic. Fei Heng, who was sitting at the front, had an unsightly expression on his face. He then said coldly, "Sirs, the Central Prefecture's elixir stores are advancing fiercely, and the situation isn't optimistic. The Dragon Phoenix elixir has dealt a heavy blow to our 3 types of common elixirs, so we must work together to resist the strong enemy. I suggest that we gather our superior elixirs and sell them in the big elixir stores that have good sales, so that we can increase our sales. For example, the heart-refining mortal dust liquid made by the Tonglin Elixir Store is pretty good, but the Tonglin Elixir Store's territory is small, so its sales are limited. Thus, I want to sell it in the Heavenly Fragrance Elixir Store, as its effects will be better." Upon hearing this, many of the shopkeepers below the stage cursed him inwardly for being shameless. The Tonglin Elixir Store's heart-refining mortal dust liquid is in short supply, and many people are begging to buy it. So, how can you say that the store is small and its sales are limited? It seems like Fei Hang is on fire. If this continues, the great shopkeeper's position will be changed next month. So, how can he not be anxious? Fei Hang is used to acting like a tyrant, and this time, he has run into a tough opponent. I really want to see how he will deal with this. Many of the shopkeepers looked at Qing Lu with tacit understanding, and they revealed meaningful smiles. What do you all think? Fei Hang smiled as he looked around at the crowd. The shopkeepers were expressionless. Of course, we have no objections. We should ask the person in question, the representative of the Tonglin elixir store. Fei Hang seemed to have not noticed that Qing Lu was sitting in the seat, and he said with a faint smile, "What do you think?" Qing Lu was used to meeting big shots these days, so he did not care about a mere great shopkeeper. He said calmly, "I'm just here to listen on behalf of the shopkeeper, and I will ask the shopkeeper to make a decision later." Great shopkeeper Fei, please continue. Even if Fei Hang knew how to endure, he would not be able to do so. His expression sank as he said, "Why is your shopkeeper absent from such an important pill gathering? Could it be that he has something more important than the pill gathering?" "That's right." Qing Lu shrugged. "What our shopkeeper does is important, and he is now meeting important guests. As for trivial matters like the elixir meeting, our shopkeepers can just run errands on his behalf. Shopkeeper Fei, you don't have to make a fuss about it." "How dare you?" Fei Hang was furious. A little shop assistant dared to be so rude to him, and it simply caused him to be furious to the extreme. Qing Lu was not afraid at all. Great shopkeeper Fei's elixir gathering. If this is all there is to it, then I have already listened to it. I'll take my leave now. Great shopkeeper Fei, please wait for my shopkeeper's decision. After that, he walked away, ignoring the fact that the elixir gathering was still going on. Downstairs, a few strong martial artists of the fairy realm, who were protecting him, followed closely behind him. His attitude was so arrogant, and his lineup was so exaggerated that those who didn't know would think that he was the young master of some great force. Fei Hang was so infuriated that his whole body shivered. Half a month ago, Su Yu had swaggered off from the elixir meet, and half a month later, Su Yu's shop assistant had also swaggered off. "Pa!" Fei Hang slammed the table and stood up. His anger had reached its peak, and he sneered, "Fine, I want to see what kind of guest Su Yuxian is meeting that is more important than the elixir meeting that I am presiding over. Follow me." The shopkeepers secretly rejoiced in Fei Hang's misfortune. Fei Hang had already shed all pretense of cordiality and was ready to confront Su Yuxian head-on. There was going to be a good show to watch. Tonglin Elixir Store. Inside the house, Su Yu was sitting across from a chubby old man. Our Red Blood Palace's outer sanctum is full of talented people, and I didn't expect that you would be so talented and proficient in the Wood Clan's language. Moreover, you even obtained an ancient spiritual liquid like the heart-refining mortal dust liquid, which helped you resolve the Tonglin Elixir Store's crisis, as well as the Red Blood Palace's elixir industry's crisis. It can be said that you are blessed by luck. The deputy general manager looked at Su Yu and spoke with a faint smile. Su Yu had already expected the deputy general manager's arrival. "Deputy general manager, you are overpraising me. I was just lucky and managed to meet an expert." "So what do you mean by luck?" Su Yu smiled modestly. The deputy general manager shook his head and revealed a faint smile. "Luck is an illusory thing, and it's difficult to grasp it thoroughly. The only thing that can be ascertained is that people blessed by luck usually benefit their surroundings. In other words, the closer you are to someone blessed by luck, the more benefits you will get." Su Yu was left speechless, and he asked helplessly, "Deputy General Manager, you didn't come here today to discuss luck with me, did you?" Of course not. Half a month has already passed, and I hope that you can keep a low profile in the second half of the month to avoid any accidents." The Deputy General Manager chuckled as he spoke. "I don't want to see an outstanding outer sanctum disciple who is proficient in the Wood Clan's language get embroiled in a dispute because of a mundane matter and put his life in danger." Su Yu shuddered, as he knew what the Deputy General Manager was referring to. Su Yu was currently in the limelight, and there were many experts who harbored malicious intentions. If he were to suffer any mishaps, then Tinya City's great event, which would take place in half a month, would probably be affected. Deputy General Manager, you don't need to worry about this, as that senior has already entrusted me with the heart-refining mortal dust liquid, and the elixirs must be sold by my elixir store. Since I don't have anything to do, I'm preparing to go into secluded cultivation for half a month, Suyu said truthfully. The Deputy General Manager was startled by this, and he wondered, Huang family? Which Huang family? However, he didn't care too much about it. Regardless of what happened, these matters aren't important anymore, as a great event will take place in half a month, and it will decide the division of Tinya City's territory. If we can gain an advantage, then we will be able to resist the Central Prefecture's invasion. Suyu raised his brows and asked, What's going on? You will know it in half a month. The Deputy General Manager smiled mysteriously, then stood up and said, Don't do anything else in this half a month, and just focus on familiarizing yourself with the Mu words you have mastered. I'll look forward to your performance in half a month. Suyu nodded. Understood. I will surely go into secluded cultivation and study the Mu words. He already had such a plan, regardless of whether it was for the so-called great event or for studying the words formed by the 200 grains of sand. That's good. The Deputy General Manager revealed a faint smile. Suyu Xian, I'm here. Let me see what's so important about you that it's even more important than my elixir association. Fei Hang led the other shopkeepers and mustered such a large force that the Divine Master Guards outside couldn't even stop them. The Deputy General Manager squinted his eyes and turned his head to look at Suyu. Do you have a grudge against each other? Suyu spread out his hands helplessly. I don't have any grudges against each other. Then what is he? The Deputy General Manager rolled his eyes and immediately understood the reason behind it. Suyu had risen too quickly, while Fei Hang was narrow-minded. The elixir industry couldn't tolerate two tigers at the same time. Can you deal with him? The Deputy General Manager asked. Suyu wore a relaxed expression. He can't deal with me, so don't pay attention to him. Just let him do as he pleases. Suyu didn't really care about Fei Hang, and he was just worried that he would cause him some trouble if he pestered him too much. The Deputy General Manager muttered to himself irresolutely, He will still be troublesome. You are currently in secluded cultivation to comprehend the Mu words, so you mustn't be disturbed. Okay, you can continue your secluded cultivation. I will go out for a while, as there are some people that I really need to deal with. Chapter 880. When he appeared, the shopkeepers in the yard were all dumbfounded, wondering if their eyes were playing tricks on them. Isn't that chubby old man the Deputy General Manager? Why is he in a small low-grade elixir store? Although the Tonglan elixir store had made a great contribution, it wasn't to the extent that the Deputy General Manager had come here personally. No one had expected that the guest Suyu was meeting with would be the Deputy General Manager. Fei Hang's furious expression froze on his face, and he stood motionless on the spot, as if he had been petrified by the guards. The Deputy General Manager stared at Fei Hang coldly, then glanced at the army of shopkeepers behind him and said coldly, What a disgrace! Go back to the faction tomorrow. Tinya City doesn't need you anymore. The Deputy General Manager waved his hand, deciding Fei Hang's fate with just a few words. The Heavenly Fragrance Elixir Store's monthly sales were shocking, so one could imagine how many merit points the faction rewarded him with. Fei Hang had the support of the Right Palace Master in the faction, so now that he had been dismissed by the Deputy General Manager, the loss of merit points wasn't a big deal, and the Right Palace Master's punishment was a big deal. The shopkeepers behind him, who were watching the commotion, looked gloomy, but they were actually very excited. The old man with the surname, Fei, had finally stepped down. Great shopkeeper Fei. It seems like Shopkeeper Su is really meeting an important guest, a shopkeeper from a middle-grade elixir store said in a strange tone. Exactly. What should we do next? Great shopkeeper Fei, please tell us. Fei Hang was so ashamed that he couldn't show his face. He covered his face and left in a daze. The crowd burst into laughter, all of them celebrating. The quick-witted shopkeepers took the opportunity to get close to Suyu. After Fei Hang was dismissed, according to the current trend, the next person to be promoted to the position of great shopkeeper wouldn't be some half-dead middle-grade elixir store, but shopkeeper Su. Unfortunately, Suyu shut himself in his room and refused to meet any guests, concentrating on his cultivation. He took out 200 grains of golden sand and continued to study the Wood Clan's language treasury that Yun Yazi had given him. The next day, a pink mist flickered in Old Huang's room, and a space ring fell with a ding sound. Inside the box were the 450 heartbroken zithergrass that Suyu had promised. Old Huang was overjoyed, and he immediately assembled a large number of alchemists to start producing the heart-refining mortal dust liquid in the Huang family secret base. This pill recipe's value lay in the fact that its ingredients were extinct. The difficulty of refining it was not difficult at all for mature middle-stage alchemists. A few days later, the Huang clan delivered 450 bottles of heart-refining mortal dust liquid to the Tonglin elixir store for sale as promised. They also got their reward, which was 500,000 crystals. Suyu was indifferent to everything that was happening in the outside world. He entered a state of cultivation in the accelerated time. Occasionally, when he woke up, he would consume a bottle of heart-refining mortal dust liquid. He would cultivate and comprehend at the same time, multitasking. Within half a month, Tianya City was in an uproar. The exclusive sale of the heart-refining mortal dust liquid had become a hot topic for a while, and its booming business had attracted the attention of many factions. It was a pity that the Red Blood Palace was in conflict with each other, and those who dared to invade it had to pay a bloody price. While the uproar over the ancient spiritual medicine continued, Suyu, the culprit behind it, finally awoke from his meditation. Under the acceleration of time, half a month of bitter cultivation was equivalent to a whole 20 years. His understanding of the Wood Clan's characters had reached a perfect level. Except for a small number of obscure characters, he could read and write most of them. Even an ordinary Wood Clan member might not be more brilliant than Suyu. After 20 years of bitter cultivation, coupled with Yun Yazi's lifetime of research, it was not surprising that Suyu had reached such a level. In fact, it was just an ordinary achievement for the Wood Clan. The Wood Clan's characters shouldn't be a problem for me anymore. I just don't know how the important matter mentioned by the Deputy General Manager is related to the Wood Clan's characters. Suyu shook off the dust on his body and blinked his dry eyes. Suyu's gains in the Wood Clan's characters were one thing, but it also made great gains in other areas. Within half a month, with the help of the heart-refining mortal dust liquid, Suyu had successfully cultivated his soul energy to the 6th grade fairy level. He was not far from the almighty level now. His cultivation had also reached the 5th grade fairy level due to the side effects. His body had also undergone corresponding changes, reaching the 8th grade fairy level. Combined with the first dragon's body, it would not be difficult for him to reach the strength of 9 elephants. When he had left the faction, Suyu had only been a 3rd grade fairy. Now a month had passed, and he had reached the 5th grade fairy level. Such a cultivation speed was not slow at all. Suyu's eyes flickered as he stood up and stretched his stiff body. He summoned Ing Luan and Qing Lu and asked them about the store's performance. He found out from them that the 450 bottles of heart-refining mortal dust liquid had been sold out within 2 hours. Many almighty experts had bought them for dozens of bottles, and they had all offered extremely high prices. It was even higher than the previous average price of 19 bottles, which was around 11,000 crystals per bottle. This was even more expensive than the price of top-grade spear elixirs. Thus, after deducting the capital paid to the Huang family, the Tonglin elixir store had earned a profit of 4.5 million crystals. This had far exceeded the standard of a top-grade elixir store, and it could almost be promoted to a super elixir store. Of course, such a huge sales performance was due to the fact that 80% of it had to be paid to the Great Senior. Even so, the Tonglin elixir store had earned a profit of 900,000 crystals out of thin air. Coupled with the profit from the previous sale of 20,000 crystals, as well as the profit from the ordinary elixirs, the total profit was more than 1 million crystals. After deducting the Tonglin elixir store's debt of 300,000 crystals before Suyu had come, Suyu had turned his losses into profits and had earned more than 800,000 crystals. According to the faction standard, A profit of 800,000 crystals would be a huge reward of more than 200,000 merit points. 200,000? There's still a long way to go before I can earn 4 million merit points. Suyu wasn't disappointed. After all, the Tonglin Elixir Store's mission was just an ordinary mission, and the fact that he could earn 200,000 merit points was already heaven-defying. After all, he was already in the limelight, and it would be hard for him to avoid attracting attention when he returned to the faction. Today happened to be the last day of the month, and Suyu's term as the shopkeeper had come to an end. It was time for him to leave. Reluctance appeared in Ingwan and Qing Lu's eyes. They knew that today was the day that Suyu would leave, as the new shopkeeper had come to the Tonglin Elixir Store 5 days ago to wait for Suyu's handover. I have a letter written by myself here. After I leave, you should hand it to the shopkeeper you trust. He will treat you well. Suyu left a letter for them. With Suyu's current prestige, he could create an even more glorious elixir store at any time. If the new shopkeeper wasn't muddle-headed, he should know that he should treat Suyu's people well in order to avoid offending him. In this way, he could still continue to thrive. Great shopkeeper Su. Ingwan was reluctant to part with him. In the past month, her fate had changed, and she had soared to great heights. It was all thanks to Suyu's help. Qing Lu bit her lip and said, "Great shopkeeper, please take us with you. I'm willing to follow you." Suyu patted their shoulders to console them. The moon waxes and wanes, and people go through sorrows and joys. Even when we meet, we will still part. If we are fated to meet again, we will surely meet again. Suyu waved his hand at them, then soared into the sky and left, leaving them, as well as the almighty divine masters in the yard. The Huang family once again received a space ring, as well as a slip of paper. I will give you half a year to digest 12,000 batches of materials. There's a slight change in the rules. You can sell them to the Tonglin Elixir Store for 10,000 crystals per batch. You will get 10% of the crystals, and I will come back to collect the other 90%. I hope that the Huang family isn't a short-sighted person. Old Huang was shocked when he heard the news. 12,000 batches of materials? To be honest, even with his willpower, he couldn't help but want to keep all of the materials for himself. In this way, all of the heart-refining mortal dust liquid that was refined would belong to the Huang family, and they would be able to sell it for more than 100 million crystals. However, Suyu's final warning had awakened him. If he could think of embezzling the materials, why didn't the senior think of that as well? Even though that senior had left, he had still specified that they would be sold by the Red Blood Palace's Tonglin Elixir Store. It was obvious that he had a close relationship with the Red Blood Palace. Why would he take the risk of being exterminated by the Red Blood Palace just to covet 100 million crystals? If he worked wholeheartedly for that senior, he would be able to earn 10 million crystals in half a year, which would already be considered a great fortune. If the senior had any orders in the future, he would continue handing them over to the Huang family. So, why would he need to worry about not having enough crystals? Thus, after a slight struggle in his mind, he calmed himself down. Later, he reported this matter to the Huang family's ancestor, and he received a positive reply. No matter how important money was, it wasn't as important as a family survival. Just relying on 10 million crystals would be enough for the Huang family to prosper for a lifetime. After Suyu left the Huang family, he didn't go to the headquarters to report his duties. Instead, he went to the Tinyao auction house once again. In a deserted alley, Suyu removed the time power in his body, and his old face gradually changed. In just a moment, he had become an elegant, fairy-like, white-haired, handsome young man. Suyu also changed his clothes. With his current appearance, no one could recognize that he was the old shopkeeper of the Tonglin Elixir Store. However, it wasn't convenient for Suyu to reveal his current appearance. After all, the portrait of him killing the Blood Emperor should have already been spread to the whole continent. Suyu's ring flickered, and a bamboo had appeared in his hand. "I want to sell something," Suyu said to the maid when he arrived in front of the Tinyao auction house. The maid smiled sweetly and said, "Please follow me. I will take you to see an appraiser." "It's useless to see them. Ask Fairy Ling to come out and see me," Suyu said calmly. The maid's face stiffened, and she forced a smile. "Senior, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Then find someone who understands. You lost the heart-refining mortal dust liquid once, so you don't want to lose another great deal, do you? So you asked. The maid pondered this for a moment, then bit her red lips and said, "Please wait for a moment." After a long while, she came out with an appraiser. He was a great appraiser, and he could be considered one of the auction house's higher-ups. "May I ask who you are? I can appraise any items you have." He had heard that a mysterious person had arrived at the door, and he had come out to meet him. Suyu replied calmly, "I'm looking for Fairy Ling, and you can't decide what I want to sell." The great appraiser furrowed his brows slightly. "I still haven't introduced myself. I'm Tinyao Auction House's great appraiser, and all of the items auctioned have been appraised by me. There isn't a single item that I can't decide." "Oh, does this mean that even if I want to sell a fairy artifact, you can decide it?" Suyu asked calmly. The great appraiser's pupils contracted. "Fairy." He shut his mouth in time and looked around vigilantly. His expression relaxed as he said solemnly, "Your Excellency, please come inside and have a chat. I will go and invite my master." Fairy artifacts, regardless of whether they were fragments, prototypes, or half-manufactured, were all beyond the scope of a great appraiser. Chapter 881. After waiting for a short while in the auction house, Suyu saw Fairy Ling. She was calm and elegant as usual, and her beautiful eyes were carefully examining Suyu's face. She couldn't see him clearly, so she could only guess that he was a youth. "Young master, may I ask if you are from Tinya City?" Fairy Ling asked sweetly. Since he had asked to see her by name, it seemed like he wasn't a stranger to Tinya City. Suyu sat down calmly and asked, "Fairy Ling, which one are you more concerned about, my background or the transaction of a fairy artifact?" Fairy Ling could tell that he didn't want to waste time with her, so her pretty eyes flickered. "Forgive me for speaking bluntly, but fairy artifacts are something that only the All-Creation Realm seniors can touch. So, I can't help but be concerned about its origin." She was worried that Suyu had taken a fairy artifact that he shouldn't have, which would anger the All-Creation old monsters and cause trouble for him. "I picked it up," Suyu replied calmly. Fairy Ling was speechless. Could a fairy artifact be picked up so easily? After pondering it for a moment, Fairy Ling said, "Fine. If it were an ordinary auction house, they probably wouldn't dare accept a fairy artifact of unknown origin. But I have another channel that can help you auction it off in secret. If you trust me, you can show me what part of the fairy artifact it is." "It's not a part of the fairy artifact." Suyu shook his head. Fairy Ling's pretty eyes flickered. If it wasn't a part of the fairy artifact, then what was it? Could it be a prototype fairy artifact? She was tempted. A fairy artifact was extremely valuable, and if she could help him auction it off, she would get a great commission. "It's a complete fairy artifact." A thread, which couldn't be detected by the naked eye, trembled in Suyu's sleeves and wrapped around a spatial ring. He then carefully placed it on the table. Suyu didn't touch it at all, as if even the ring was extremely dangerous. Fairy Ling was surprised by this. Why is he so cautious? She blinked her pretty eyes and carefully revolved a wisp of vital energy to envelop the spatial ring. She then tried to probe it with a wisp of her soul energy to understand the situation inside the spatial ring. She saw a strange-looking gear lying quietly in the ring. A blurry image flashed in Fairy Ling's mind. It seemed like she had seen it somewhere before. All of a sudden, a wisp of demonic energy burst forth from the black gear, and Fairy Ling's soul energy was extinguished before it could even react. "Ah!" With a delicate cry, Fairy Ling tossed the spatial ring away as if she had been electrocuted. She hurriedly circulated her true energy to protect her body and quickly retreated far away from the ring. A pained expression appeared on her face. A strand of her soul had been destroyed, and she herself had been implicated. Her beautiful face was deathly pale. Her bright eyes were filled with horror and fear. It's the supreme fairy weapon of the diabolism, the flying guillotine. You actually took this kind of thing?" "Flying guillotine?" Suyu murmured. This was the first time he had heard the Black Gear's name. In the past, the 5 great golden light guards had failed to find Suyu. Instead, they had been provoked by an all-creation woman, and they had ended up fighting with her. In the end, The woman was severely injured by the projection of the Central Prefecture's king, who had been invited by the 5 great golden light guards. Before she died, she almost implicated Suyu. Fortunately, Suyu had many tricks up his sleeves, so he was lucky enough to escape the encirclement of the 5 great golden light guards. After that, Suyu healed her injuries and conveniently took away the fairy artifact, which was filled with terrifying demonic energy as revenge. This item was also Suyu's greatest source of crystal stones. After all, a fairy artifact value should be extremely high. Upon seeing Fairy Ling's expression, Suyu raised his brows and put away the ring. If you don't want to accept it, I'll take my leave. It seemed like the flying guillotine's owner had an outstanding status. Wait, I need to think about it, Fairy Ling said hurriedly. She restrained her vital energy, but she still couldn't hide the shock on her face. Suyu shook his head. I don't have time to wait for your reply. If you've made up your mind, send me a message. After throwing her a jade pendant, Suyu immediately left the Tianyao auction house. He didn't stop for even a moment. Who knew whether Fairy Ling would be tempted by his wealth and mobilize the Tianyao auction house's experts to kill him? Fairy Ling grabbed the jade pendant. It was only after a long while that her heaving chest calmed down. Her eyes flickered with a grave light as she murmured, "Why did Mo Tianchuan's natal fairy artifact fall into the hands of this mysterious youth? I must inform the Cliff Master about this matter, as he's the only one who can make a decision." At this moment, Gongsun Wuxia came bouncing over and asked, "Little Ant, are you ready? The day of the sacrificial offering is just around the corner." Fairy Ling put away the ring and said calmly, "Yes, everything is ready. This is a great fortune for you, as there must be a treasure in the desolate, evil jungle that can purify your body." Gongsun Wuxia waved her fist and said, "Yes, you must succeed. If I can get rid of the medicinal power in my body, I won't need to be an infant anymore. I want to become a young lady, a beautiful young lady, in the Hall of Celestial Spirits." Huan Gui and several middle-stage, almighty divine masters were standing in the hall. They had their heads lowered and didn't dare to move. A white-clothed old man was sitting in front of them. He cast a glance at Huan Gui and said, "The Heavenly Knife Region's master already knows about this matter, so you can't be blamed for it. The opponent's hidden trump cards were too shocking, so it's understandable that you didn't manage to achieve your goal." Huan Gui and the others heaved a sigh of relief. It was only then that they could relax. "The Region Master asked me to ask you something. How are the preparations for the desolate, evil jungle's sacrificial offering this time?" The white-clothed old man asked in a solemn tone. Huan Gui's expression became solemn, and he revealed a confident look. "Sir, you can set your mind at ease. Everything has been prepared, and we still hired the 2 masters, Qin and Lin. Their mastery of the Wood Clan's language is at the peak, and no one in the entire Central Prefecture can rival them. It's all thanks to them that our Heavenly Knife region was able to snatch such a large territory from the Tianyao auction house. This time, we managed to invite them again, and the Wood Clan's language masters from the Red Blood Palace and the Purple Cloud Palace aren't a match for them. As for the other 16 great factions, they won't pose a threat to us." The white-clothed old man nodded and revealed a friendly smile. "You did a good job in this matter. Among the Central Prefecture's 5 regions, only our Heavenly Knife region managed to gain a firm foothold in Tianyao City, and we even managed to defeat the 18 blessed and heavenly lands. You won our Heavenly Knife region's reputation, and the region master admires you a lot." Huan Gui's face became flushed. "Sir, thank you for your guidance. I will surely do my best to occupy half of the Central Prefecture's territory." The white-clothed old man was curious. "Oh, why are you so confident? I remember that it took us no less than 10 years to occupy half of Tianyao City's territory. So, how did you manage to occupy half of it this time?" Huan Gui revealed a mysterious smile. "If it was a fair competition, it would obviously be difficult, as the opponent's Mu Words experts aren't just for show. But what if their experts can't participate in the sacrificial ceremony?" The white-clothed old man seemed to have understood something. Suyu changed his appearance once again, taking on an old and frail appearance. He then went to the headquarters with the identity of Su Yuxian. The person guarding the entrance was still the middle-aged man, surnamed Ju. Upon seeing Su Yu, he didn't seem as enthusiastic as before. "Is your term of office up?" Su Yu nodded and smiled. "Yes, senior. Please let me pass." The middle-aged man, surnamed Ju, nodded and opened the seal to let Su Yu enter. As he looked at Su Yu's back, his eyes flickered slightly. "In the side hall of the two-story building. You really keep your word. How has your familiarity with the Mu words been these past few days?" The deputy general manager asked cordially. Su Yu replied, "I'm barely familiar with them." A trace of helplessness flickered in the deputy general manager's eyes, but he still maintained the smile on his face. "I've improved. Deputy general manager, are you still not going to explain the so-called important matter to your disciple?" Su Yu was very curious. The deputy general manager's eyes turned cold. After a moment of silence, he sighed and said, "It's time to tell you. The reason why I invited you to participate is that you're proficient in the Mu words. The whole of Tinya City is going to carry out the desolate, evil jungle sacrificial offering, which is held once a year. The sacrificial offering process requires the use of the Mu words," the deputy general manager explained. Su Yu's heart skipped a beat. Wasn't the desolate, evil jungle sacrificial offering mentioned in Yamu Daoist's personal letter? The 200 golden grains of sand were also related to the sacrificial offering. The so-called desolate, evil jungle sacrificial offering has a long history. Since ancient times, the blessed and heavenly lands have held it every year, and it must be held. Otherwise, the consequences will be dire. The deputy general manager's tone was solemn. Su Yu asked, "What will happen if the sacrificial offering isn't held? Is there a danger that could affect the whole blessed and heavenly lands?" It's really strange. In front of the sacrificial altar is the desolate, evil jungle, which has a circumference of only 1,000 miles. Powerful martial artists can fly over it in an instant, but for Tinya City and the blessed and heavenly lands, it's a forbidden area for humans. Regardless of whether it's a fairy or a divine master, or even an all-creation strongman, once they enter the desolate, evil jungle, there's no record of them ever coming back alive. You didn't hear it wrong. Even an all-creation strongman who enters the desolate, evil jungle will die. There has never been an exception. So you sucked in a breath of cold air. Even an all-creation strongman will die if he enters it. He couldn't believe that such a dangerous place existed. According to the ancient records passed down by the Red Blood Palace, the desolate, evil jungle suddenly appeared in the land of Jiuzhou 10,000 years ago and occupied that area. It has never moved away since then. Since then, terrifying roots will appear in the desolate, evil jungle every year at this time. They will surge out from the depths of the desolate, evil jungle and cover the surrounding millions of miles of mountains and rivers. Wherever they pass, all spiritual things, including magical treasures and living creatures, will be drawn into the depths of the desolate, evil jungle, never to return. He then added, "In the past, a few all-creation strong men from Jiuzhou joined hands to enter the jungle in order to investigate it. In the end, they never returned, and it's unknown whether they're dead or alive." He then added, "Later on, when people ascended to the fairy realm, there was an altar in front of the desolate, evil jungle. As long as they follow the Mu words that appear on the altar every year at this time and give enough spiritual things, the vines won't appear and cause a disaster." He then added, "Hence, since a long time ago, the people of the blessed and heavenly lands started offering sacrifices to the altar every year in order to quell the disaster." The deputy general manager then added, "Tinya City is the closest to the altar, so this mission fell on Tinya City." Su Yu gradually understood, and he asked in surprise, "Has no one ever successfully entered the desolate, evil jungle?" "Yes." The deputy general manager's eyes flickered. In the past, there was a peerless strong man whose fighting prowess rivaled Jiuzhou's king. He entered the desolate, evil jungle alone and settled down there. He came out a few times, but he wasn't willing to divulge any details about the desolate, evil jungle. The last time he appeared was 1,000 years ago, and there was no news of him after that. Chapter 882. Daoist Yamu. The Deputy General Manager sighed. A rare, peerless expert passed away in the desolate, evil jungle just like that. It really was him. So there was no falsehood in the account. Then, what was the use of those 200 grains of golden sand? Although Su Yu could already recognize all of the golden sand, he couldn't link them together into a complete sentence, no matter how he pieced them together. It seemed like these golden sand words were just a part of it. You don't need to delve too deeply into these things. What I'm going to tell you now is the specific content of the sacrifice. The Deputy General Manager said, in the past, the sacrificial ceremony was just a simple sacrificial ceremony. However, ever since the Central Prefecture's factions invaded Tinya City, the situation has changed. 100 years ago, Tinya City was destroyed in a great war. Later, both sides stopped fighting and rebuilt the inner city. However, the neighboring Blessed and Heavenly Lands, the Heavenly Knife region, wasn't willing to let the matter rest. It destroyed the inner city both openly and covertly, causing the inner city to become desolate. Left with no choice, the Red Blood Palace and the Purple Cloud Palace negotiated with the Heavenly Knife Region Master. In the end, we came to an agreement that the Heavenly Knife Region Master would never attack Tinya City again. But in return, the Heavenly Knife Region demanded that they be qualified to enter Tinya City to do business and operate their industries. The method was to hold a sacrificial ceremony every year. The party that contributed the most to the sacrificial ceremony would get the shops. These shops would naturally be distributed among the 18 sects of the Blessed and Heavenly Lands. Our Blessed and Heavenly Land is a small place. After all, the Heavenly Knife region is backed by the Central Prefecture, and they are full of talents. They found 2 top-notch Wood Clan language experts, and as a result, the Heavenly Knife region is allowed to open a certain number of shops every year. As you can see now, half of the shops in Tinya City are owned by Tinya City. Therefore, I hope that you can do your best in this sacrifice. I don't expect you to win against the 2 Topwood race language masters, but I hope that you can stop them for a while so that we don't lose too badly this time. Su Yu was also curious as to why the industries of the Central Prefecture were being eroded so quickly. I will surely do my best. May I ask, am I the only participant of the Red Blood Palace? Su Yu asked. The Deputy General Manager chuckled and said, of course it won't be just you. There's another person. Who? Su Yu asked. I can't tell you now, as the earlier your identity is exposed, the more dangerous it will be. The last time, our Red Blood Palace's Mu languages expert was assassinated by the Central Prefecture because of his identity, the Deputy General Manager said. Su Yu's heart shuddered as he realized the danger he was in. It was true that his identity could be kept a secret before he participated in the sacrificial ceremony. But what about after he participated? Would he end up like the previous Wood Clan language master? As if he had seen through Su Yu's worries, the Deputy General Manager smiled and said, you don't need to worry, as I will send someone to escort you back to the faction. The sacrificial offering this time will also be beneficial to you, as during the sacrificial offering, pure energy will appear from the desolate evil jungle. As you are experts in Mu words, you will be the first to be bathed in the energy, which will greatly benefit your cultivation. Su Yu muttered to himself for a moment, then nodded slightly. How could the benefits of a little cultivation be compared to personal safety? Even if Su Yu returned to the faction alive, he might still be targeted by the influences of the Central Prefecture. For him, the risk of this sacrificial offering was too great. However, he didn't plan to go back on his word, because the secret hidden in Yamu Daoist's 200 grains of golden sand might be very shocking. No matter what, he had to go to the desolate, evil jungle. You can rest for a day at the headquarters. After tomorrow, I will take you to the secret stronghold to get to know the other Wood Clan experts of the Blessed and Heavenly Lands. Try to reach a tacit agreement, and at the sacrificial ceremony, you can compete with the 2 Wood Clan language masters of the Central Prefecture. There are Wood Clan language masters of other factions? Su Yu nodded. A day passed. The Deputy General Manager led Su Yu to the underground of the 9-story garret, where a hidden, mysterious formation was quietly activated. This is an escape formation created by the headquarters to avoid danger. You mustn't spread it, the deputy general manager instructed as he activated the formation. A wave of dizziness hit Suyu. When Suyu opened his eyes, he found that he had already left Tianya City and appeared in a desolate, uninhabited grassland. "Follow me." The deputy general manager waved his sleeves, and a gentle gust of wind engulfed Suyu. 2 hours later, in a stone forest at the edge of the wasteland, the deputy general manager had just arrived when several shocking auras shot out from the inconspicuous stone forest. Upon closer inspection, Suyu found that they were all 7th grade, almighty late-stage experts, similar to the deputy general manager. "It's me," the deputy general manager shouted in a deep voice while emitting his own aura. The auras in the stone forest gradually converged, and 3 to 5 figures flew out of the stone forest. There were men and women, young and old. "Old Monster Wu, why did you only come now?" A red-headed, bald monk with big ears asked in a coarse voice. It turned out that the deputy general manager's surname was Wu. "I'm sorry, but I was preoccupied with an important matter, so I came late." The deputy general manager smiled and cupped his hands at them. The red-headed, big-eared monk glanced at Suyu. "This is the Wood Clan language master that you just found? He seems quite decent, but I don't know his background. Don't drag our Purple Cloud Palace down with you." The red-headed monk was none other than the leader of the Purple Cloud Palace's team. He was referring to the fact that Suyu looked like a celestial being and had a good temperament, but he didn't know whether he was really knowledgeable. "How could the person I chose be wrong? Let's go inside and have a chat." Let him interact with the other Wood Clan language masters first, so that he can familiarize himself with each other and quickly reach a tacit understanding, the deputy general manager said. Suyu was brought into the stone forest, and it was only after he entered that he discovered that there was another world inside the stone forest. It was a large space set up by a formation, which was soundproof and isolated from vital energy fluctuations. Hence, it was difficult for the outside world to detect what was going on inside the stone forest. In order to protect the few Wood Clan language masters, they had really put in a lot of effort. "Shopkeeper Su, you have finally come." A hearty laugh could be heard. Suyu turned his head and saw a familiar old man. He couldn't help but ask in surprise, "Master Gao, why are you here?" "The other Wood Clan language master of our Red Blood Palace is Master Gao." This person was the chief auctioneer of the Red Blood Palace auction house, Master Gao. He was known for his profound knowledge, and even all creation old monsters would ask him for guidance. He was highly respected in Tianya City. I should have known it was Master Gao long ago. Suyu suddenly understood. Master Gao was very knowledgeable, so it was reasonable for him to know Wood Clan language masters. Master Gao flashed a warm smile and said, "I only found out yesterday that the deputy general manager recommended another Wood Clan words expert. It's none other than great shopkeeper Su. The heart-refining mortal dust liquid that you've brought with you is a great blessing for the martial artists of Tianya City." "Oh, he's the shopkeeper Su who sold the heart-refining mortal dust liquid?" Someone in the crowd asked in surprise. "Hee, I was wondering who it was. It turns out to be shopkeeper Su, who swam naked in broad daylight and bullied innocent women." A strange smile was also heard. When Suyu looked over, he saw that they were 2 middle-aged men. The one on the left was dressed in a loose orange robe, and he was sizing Suyu up in surprise. His cultivation was surprisingly at the 1st grade almighty level. The other was a middle-aged man in black clothes. His face was dark red, and he was wearing a mocking smile. His cultivation had even reached the 2nd grade almighty level. Suyu was puzzled. When did I swim naked? And when did I bully innocent women? Suyu didn't want to waste his breath explaining himself to them. So, he quietly went to Master Gao's side and prepared to recuperate as he waited for the sacrificial offering to begin. "Shopkeeper Su, do you still have the heart-refining mortal dust liquid?" A soft, pleasant, elegant, and familiar voice drifted into Suyu's ears. Suyu was surprised, and when he opened his eyes to look, his pupils contracted slightly. However, he quickly regained his composure. "Yes, how much does Miss Lu want?" Suyu asked calmly. The woman before him was none other than Lu Chuyi. She was also an expert in Wood Clan language masters, Suyu recalled that on the first day he came to Tianya City, he had seen her coming out of the Purple Cloud Palace's headquarters. At that time, he had wondered why Lu Chuyi had come all the way here. It turned out that it was also for the sacrificial offering. Lu Chuyi smiled gently, and her smile was as beautiful as 100 flowers. "Shopkeeper Su, you still remember me." That day, at the entrance of the Bright Moon householder's house, Lu Chuyi had mistaken his back for Su Yu. Hence, she had a deep impression of him. "It's my honor." Su Yu didn't even raise his head. He seemed rather cold as he took out 3 bottles of the heart-refining mortal dust liquid and handed them to her. "Are they enough?" Lu Chuyi's eyes lit up, and her fair face became slightly flushed. "I've been to the Tonglin elixir store, but it's a pity that I was too late. Shopkeeper Su, thank you for giving them to me." As she spoke, she was about to take out crystals from her sleeves. "Miss Lu, are you the one who needs the heart-refining mortal dust liquid?" Suyu asked. She was already an almighty, so the heart-refining mortal dust liquid's effects were minimal. Even a first-grade almighty wouldn't be interested in it. So, where did she get her joy from? Lu Chui hesitated for a moment. "Actually, it's not really a secret. When I was training in the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion, my soul suffered some damage, and I need some items to nourish my soul energy. Incredible elixirs that could strengthen the soul energy of an almighty were even rarer than the heart-refining mortal dust liquid on the market. They couldn't be bought with money. Lu Chui had no choice but to use the heart-refining mortal dust liquid, which had a weak effect. The mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion. Suyu murmured softly. His heart ached as he looked at Lu Chui. Wasn't her soul injured because she had used her soul incarnation to block an attack for Suyu? Suyu's palm flickered once again, and 7 bottles of the heart-refining mortal dust liquid appeared. He then said, 3 bottles have a weak effect, but 10 bottles might still have some effect on you. Lu Chui's face lit up with delight. 10 bottles. That's a total of 110,000 crystals, right? There's no need for that. I'll give these to you, Miss Lu. Suyu shook his head, then turned around and went back to Master Gao's side. Lu Chui was startled, and she looked at Suyu with an odd expression. "Shopkeeper Su, we've only met once, so I can't afford a gift of 110,000 crystals." As she spoke, she insisted on giving the crystals to Suyu. Suyu said softly, "I'm only giving them to you because of the person you can't forget. Take them." Outsiders couldn't understand what Suyu meant, but Lu Chui's body shivered. She stared at Suyu, surprised by his words. What does he mean? Does he know that I mistook him for Suyu? Or is he just giving me a gift on a whim? Lu Chui was confused, and she stared at Suyu, trying to see something from his expression. Chapter 883. Junior Brother Qian, don't speak nonsense. Lu Chui turned around and glared at the black-clothed, red-faced man. In fact, she had some doubts in her heart. There were too many people who tried to please her, and she couldn't tell them apart. Junior Brother Qian curled his lips and glanced at Suyu with disdain. He then hid his hands in his sleeves and kept his mouth shut. Lu Chui stared at Suyu for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Thank you, Shopkeeper Su. If you have any trouble in the future, you can look for me at the Purple Cloud Palace." Suyu remained motionless, as if he had entered a meditative state. "All right, let's continue our discussion. In the past 10 years, I've been studying some of the rare wood race's characters in the sacrificial ceremony, and I've gained some insights. Everyone, please share your insights. This way, it'll be easier for you to grasp more familiar wood race's characters." Junior Brother Qian waved his hand and took out a jade drawing board. There were dozens of rare wood race characters on it, and all of them were shrouded in true energy, making it hard for anyone to understand them. I will show one of them first, and then everyone will take turns to show it. This way, no one will suffer a loss. Junior Brother Qian waved his hand and retracted a wisp of Jinqi, just enough to reveal one character. He did not dare to reveal more than one character, as it would seem like he treasured it. It was a word similar to the shape of a heart. In the heart, there was a dot. These were all words that had appeared during the sacrificial ritual. Although Suyu was confident in himself, he didn't dare to be careless. When he looked at it, he realized that he recognized it. In human terms, it was a tunnel, so it wasn't too obscure. Hey, what a coincidence. I've also spent a lot of time studying these wood race characters, a martial artist said. Several other martial artists nodded, indicating that they had also studied these characters. Lu Chuyi and Master Gao were among them. Junior Martial Brother Qian smiled. That's even better. Why don't you all tell us your opinions and then compare them? I've looked through many ancient texts, and I think that the wood race's characters are all pictograms. You have to infer the meaning from the posture of the characters. This heart should be deduced like this. Look, it looks like a heart, and there's a dot in the middle that looks like an eye. I guess it means the heart's eye. Combined with the fact that we need to sacrifice a large number of living beings, it is very likely that we need to sacrifice the hearts and eyes of living beings. After the crowd heard this, many people nodded slightly, thinking that it made sense. What do you think, Junior Sister Lu? Junior Brother Qian was somewhat pleased with himself. Lu Qi shook her head calmly. I think it's like a lock. The point in the middle is like a keyhole. This statement was a little forced. What about Master Gao? Junior Brother Qian asked. He had heard of Master Gao's reputation, so he didn't dare to underestimate him. Master Gao stared at him attentively and shook his head. I don't know. I can't be sure, so I can't make a decision. Junior Brother Qian was disappointed and asked them one by one. In the end, most of them agreed with what Junior Brother Qian said. Perhaps Junior Brother Qian really is correct this time. If the word sacrifice appears, then sacrificing the heart and eyes of creatures shouldn't be wrong. A Wood Clan language expert said. The rest of them agreed. After some thought, they all felt that this translation was probably the most correct. Even Lu Chuyi was shaken. Since everyone has agreed, then during the sacrifice, whoever encounters this word will know what to do, right? Junior Brother Qian said, feeling rather pleased with himself. Master Gao looked at Su Yu and asked, Shopkeeper Su, you haven't expressed your opinion yet, have you? He did not know if Junior Brother Qian had left Su Yu out on purpose. Junior Brother Qian glanced sideways at Su Yu, his eyes full of disdain and disdain. He disliked Su Yu's past deeds. Of course, those who were observant would know that what seemed like disdain was actually jealousy, apart from Lu Chui, who among the people present was not jealous of Su Yu. He had stirred up a storm in Tianya City and gained a great deal of honor. Such an honor could not be bought with money. However, due to the presence of several seniors, it was not convenient for him to have a conflict with Su Yu. Haha, I almost forgot about Shopkeeper Su. Tell me your opinion. I'm all ears. Su Yu frowned slightly. He really did not want to respond to Junior Brother Qian's provocation. But, seeing that everyone had been misled by him, what if something really went wrong during the sacrifice? He had to answer him directly. I don't have any opinion, just a little insight. With all due respect, this is not a trick, nor is it a lock, but a passageway. Su Yu was straightforward. Most of the Mu words are illusory hieroglyphs, but a small part of them have absorbed the essence of other races. In the Mu words, this word is pronounced Lao, which means passageway. The appearance of this word during the sacrifice should indicate the appearance of a passageway. Many of the language experts, who had wanted to watch Su Yu make a fool of himself, were stunned. Su Yu had stated his meaning so confidently and accurately, and he even knew the pronunciation of the word, which made them unable to laugh. Junior Brother Qian was also slightly startled. Of course, he would never admit that he was wrong, especially in front of all the Mu experts. Lao, did you invent it? Humph! Up until now, no human book has been able to completely translate the pronunciation of the Mu words, and you're the pioneer? Junior Brother Qian sneered. Su Yu said calmly, You don't know because your vision is limited and you're ignorant. I'm not the pioneer, so you don't have to be so sarcastic. After saying that, Su Yu closed his eyes and did not explain further. He had said what he needed to say, and if they did not listen and still made mistakes during the sacrifice, they could not blame anyone else. Master Gao pondered for a long time, mulling over Su Yu's words just now. After a while, he nodded. Yes, it does make more sense to call it a passageway. I also feel that it shouldn't be a trick. Lu Chui looked at Su Yu curiously, thinking to herself that this old man was so strange. Apart from being a little cold to her, There were many strange things that could not be explained with words. After staring at the word for a long time, Lu Chui nodded. Yes, this is similar to my understanding. The dot in the middle is not an eye, but some kind of space. I understand it as a keyhole, and he understands it as a passageway. After weighing the pros and cons, Lu Chui trusted Su Yu's judgment more. Everyone present had studied the Mu words, so it was clear who made the most sense. If you encounter this word, perhaps it's more reliable to understand it as a passageway. Seeing that everyone was convinced, junior brother Qian was secretly angry. He had worked hard for several years, but Suyu had rejected his idea without hesitation, which made him lose face. He had never considered that his sarcasm had also given Suyu face. Forget it, you guys continue discussing. I'm going to rest for a while. Junior brother Qian put away the J drawing board and closed his eyes to rest. The language experts looked at each other and could not help but advise, Junior brother Qian, you are the leader of our generation in the study of Mu words. Why are you letting your emotions affect your decisions in front of a great enemy? Junior brother Qian snorted. It's enough that you have Suyu. The Mu words expert sighed inwardly. Junior brother Qian from the Purple Cloud Palace was good at everything, but he was too arrogant and self-opinionated. He would act on his emotions whenever he was displeased. Tomorrow was the day of the sacrificial offering, yet he was throwing a tantrum before such an important day. It was really annoying. What was more hateful was that junior brother Qian's performance had always been the most eye-catching. His study of the Mu words was only inferior to the two Mu masters of the Central Prefecture, Qinlin. Over the past 10 years, they had fought several times, and the two masters had appraised junior brother Qian for being a formidable opponent. It could be said that if junior brother Qian hadn't been in the past, they would have lost even more miserably, and they might have been driven out of Tianya City. The deputy general manager, who was watching from the side, furrowed his brows. Monk Zhou, your junior brother Qian is becoming more and more lawless. 10 years ago, he was just a nameless, weak guard with an inferiority complex. Now, he has a bad temper, and he still doesn't know what's important in front of a great enemy. Monk Zhou sighed helplessly. What can I do? He is the only expert in the Mu words in the Purple Cloud Palace, and besides the inner sanctum's elders, who in the faction dares to touch him? How can he not have a bad temper? Even I don't dare to reprimand him, as I don't want to be blamed by the true man of the Purple Cloud. Everyone felt indescribably comfortable, but due to junior brother Qian's important status, they didn't dare to voice their anger. They were afraid of offending him further, and he would just leave. If that really happened, the 18 blessed and heavenly lands would be done for during the sacrificial offering, and no one would be able to contend against the two masters. Fine, at such a time, let's put aside our personal grudges and discuss it together so that we can learn from each other. Even though Monk Zhou was unwilling, he still tried to console him. Junior brother Qian opened his eyes and stared at Suyu coldly. We can discuss it together, but please get rid of those annoying flies. Otherwise, we won't be able to calm down, and how will we discuss it? Monk Zhou looked at the deputy general manager helplessly. The deputy general manager was unwilling to do so, as he was the one who had brought Suyu here. If he made Suyu feel wronged, wouldn't it disappoint Suyu? Monk Zhou transmitted his voice to him. Old Monster Wu, you should just bear with it for now. You should prioritize junior brother Qian in everything. If you really offend him, who will be the one to carry out the sacrificial offering tomorrow? The two Mu words experts you found are far inferior to junior brother Qian, aren't they? Will you be able to find another junior brother Qian in such a short time? This was the deputy general manager's dilemma. Master Gao hadn't studied Mu words before, and he had only started studying them in recent years because of the faction's request. Hence, he didn't have a deep foundation, and he couldn't compete with junior brother Qian, who was a top-notch Mu words expert who could rival the two masters. As for Suyu, although he had been tested and had a certain foundation in Mu words, who could guarantee that he had a deep foundation? If he really offended this impulsive junior brother Qian, the sacrificial offering would be troublesome. Old Monster Wu, just give him some benefits. He's just an outer sanctum disciple, so why should he care so much? Monk Zhou tried to persuade him. The deputy general manager weighed the pros and cons in his heart, and he could only suppress his vexation and smile warmly at Su Yu. Yu Xian, come out for a moment. I want to discuss the sacrificial offerings details with you. Su Yu sighed silently. Even the deputy general manager had given up on protecting him. Su Yu was aware of his difficulties, but he still felt a chill in his heart. He had risked exposing his foundation in Mu words and risking being hunted down by the Central Prefecture's influences. He hadn't mentioned any conditions to help the faction, yet in the end, the other party had abandoned him just because they wanted to vent their anger on an expert in Mu words. Chapter 884. The deputy general manager had a headache. Why was there another troublemaker? It was fine if Su Yu left, but if Master Gao also left, who would learn new word from junior brother Qian? This was related to the interests of the blessed and heavenly lands in Tianya City, so how could they let their emotions affect their decisions? Why are you following me? We'll exchange pointers with the wood race's language here, the deputy general manager said. But at this time, junior brother Qian's face turned cold. I'm sorry, I've changed my mind. Master Gao, since you want to go out, don't be an eyesore here. The deputy general manager flew into a rage. It was one thing to drive away Su Yu, but he had even driven away Master Gao, whom he had high hopes for. This was like treating the sacrificial offering as a child's play. Monk Zhou's figure flickered, and he quickly transmitted a message. Old Monster Wu, bear with it and don't get angry. Now is not the time to get angry. You can find trouble with this brat after this, but don't provoke him now. The deputy general manager was furious. This was the first time he felt so useless. As for Master Gao, he flashed a faint smile at Su Yu, then swiftly left the seal. Shopkeeper Su, I've been wanting to have a chat with you for a long time, and I've finally found a chance to do so. Let's go outside. Now that things had come to this, everyone could only remain silent. Junior brother Qian smiled coldly and waved his hand. Hee, the annoying flies are gone. Now it's peaceful. Let's continue. Now that Master Gao's seat had been vacated, everyone sat closer together. The orange-robed middle-aged man listened very seriously to junior brother Qian's explanation, occasionally agreeing with him. He won junior brother Qian's favor and took special care of him. Inside, there was a lot of discussion. Outside, the wind was blowing sand and rocks, and the cold wind was blowing recklessly. The deputy general manager said apologetically. Just as the words were about to come out of his mouth, they turned into a helpless sigh. He waved his hand and said, That's fine too. The two of you can exchange insights with each other. You might not necessarily be inferior to them. After saying that, he entered the restriction, leaving the two of them alone in the bleak, cold wind. Shopkeeper Su, Master Gao consoled him. The deputy general manager has his own difficulties, so don't resent him. If we want to blame someone, we can only blame ourselves for being incompetent. If our attainments in the Wood Clan's language had surpassed his, the deputy general manager wouldn't have made us suffer this kind of vexation. So he waved his hand. It doesn't matter. Let's discuss it here. Time is limited, and I will teach you everything I know tonight. As for how much you can remember, it all depends on you. Master Gao was taken aback, and his face stiffened. He didn't want to see Su Yu being wronged, so he came out to accompany him and teach him some Mu words that he knew. Master Gao was very confident in his knowledge. In recent years, he had studied hard, and he had comprehended a lot of things. He believed that he had reached a certain level. On the other hand, according to the news from the faction, Su Yu was actually a youth who was not even 20 years old. It was just that he had made a mistake in his cultivation, which made him look very old. At such a young age, coupled with the fact that he was infatuated with the martial Tao, how could he know much about the Wood Tribe's language? If he reluctantly imparted some to him tonight, he might not lose too badly tomorrow. Unexpectedly, Su Yu's tone was full of, I will teach you. Let's discuss it. Master Gao gave Su Yu a way out of this embarrassing situation. Su Yu understood Master Gao's intention, so he nodded and said, Fine, let's discuss it then. The two of them chose a boulder and used their true chi as a brush to write various wood race characters in the air. At first, Master Gao was still able to discuss some things with Su Yu. But, after a cup of tea's time, Master Gao was surprised to discover that this young lad didn't seem to be an otaku, as he knew all the Mu words that he was speaking. Master Gao had a whole new level of respect for Suyu, so he finally gave up on the idea of imparting it to him and started discussing it seriously. However, as they discussed, Master Gao found that he was gradually unable to keep up with Suyu's thinking. At first, the two of them were still able to speak a few sentences, but the more they talked, the more Master Gao couldn't speak. In the end, Suyu was the only one speaking, while Master Gao listened attentively. In the end, Master Gao couldn't remember the content of Suyu's words just by listening, so he hurriedly stopped him. Stop, stop, stop. Master Gao's eyes were full of surprise as he looked at Suyu. What Suyu was talking about was a set of theories on how to understand the ghost race's words, just like the pinyin of the human race's words. If one mastered such a theory, any ghost race's words would have a pattern to follow. He could swear that no one in the Jiuzhou continent had ever mastered such a theory. Master Gao couldn't describe his feelings. A 20-year-old youth had mastered the wood race's words theory, which was unprecedented in the whole continent. This kind of contrast between absurdity and reality gave him a feeling that it was surreal. He suddenly remembered that Suyu had told him to remember what he had said seriously, and how much he could comprehend would depend on himself. That wasn't the arrogance of a young man, but the calm guidance of a great master. After Master Gao confirmed that he had no more questions, he bowed to Suyu respectfully and said, "Greetings, teacher. Please enlighten me." He bowed to Suyu in the manner of a teacher and student, then took out a jade slip and prepared to record every detail of Suyu's explanation. Suyu accepted his bow on behalf of Yun Yazi. If Yun Yazi knew about this, he would surely hope that his research could be spread out. Let's continue. Suyu continued to explain what he had learned, and, at the same time, he explained a lot about the wood race's words. He taught Master Gao step by step. When the sun rose, Suyu looked at the sky regretfully and said, "This is as far as I can go. How much have you mastered?" Master Gao replied shamefully, "Less than 10% of what you have said." Suyu nodded. 10% is not bad. It's not at the top level, but it's much better than junior brother Qian's. Thank you, teacher, for teaching me and dispelling my doubts. I'm very grateful. Master Gao had been pursuing knowledge all his life, and this Wood Clan's language, which humans couldn't grasp, was like a precious treasure to him. This was why he was willing to acknowledge Master Gao as his master. Suyu flicked his sleeves and stood up. Do not tell anyone about what happened here. If anyone asks, just say that it was taught by Elder Yin. Master Gao was puzzled, but he understood that Suyu had his own difficulties, so he nodded in agreement. Schwa. At that moment, the restriction was opened. Junior brother Qian, Lu Chuyi, and the other Mu language experts walked out of the stone forest. Each of them seemed to be deep in thought, and their eyes flashed with wisdom and confidence. It was obvious that they had gained something last night. Junior brother Qian was like the moon surrounded by stars. He walked out slowly and glanced sideways at Suyu and Suyu. He chuckled and said, "I hope the Red Blood Palace won't hold us back too much." It seemed like Suyu didn't hear him. Master Gao was a man of virtue and prestige, so he wouldn't argue with such a person. He just stood motionlessly behind Suyu. This subtle gesture attracted the attention of Lu Chuyi and the deputy general manager. Why did the relationship between the two of them change so subtly overnight? It was just that the sacrificial ceremony was imminent, so they didn't have the time to think too much. Prepare to offer the sacrifice now. The deputy general manager and a few almighties brought all the Mu language experts with them. They crossed countless miles of land and arrived at a barren desert. The desert had been scorched for an unknown number of years. At a glance, they could see many charred ruins that had been buried by sand and dust. A long time ago, this place used to be a lush, green primeval forest that was rarely visited by humans. One day, the desolate, evil jungle had suddenly descended. It had caused a huge, raging flame that had destroyed millions of miles of the forest and turned it into a desert. At the end of the desert, a dim forest of withered branches could be seen clearly. The forest was surrounded by a lingering yellow fog. Regardless of whether it was wind or sand, once it entered the forest, it would never be able to get out. The desolate, evil jungle. Suyu narrowed his eyes as he stared at the forest. He had a very depressing feeling. The depths of the forest gave him an ominous feeling. It was as if there were unknown, ferocious creatures in the depths of the forest. They weren't the first guests to arrive, or rather, they were guests who had arrived a long time ago. The desolate, evil jungle surroundings were densely packed with tents of various sizes. They were like mushrooms, and they stretched for hundreds of miles. A rough count revealed that there were at least several million people here, and they were all experts at or above the half-fairy realm. Ordinary people didn't have the ability to come here even if they wanted to. Most of them had come to watch the sacrifice, while a small portion of them were the organizers of the sacrifice. They had brought the necessary sacrificial spiritual objects in advance. Tens of thousands of cages were filled with spiritual treasures and all kinds of powerful demonic beasts. The astonishing spiritual energy emitted by the spiritual treasures could be smelled everywhere. The restless roars of the demonic beasts that were about to be sacrificed could also be heard everywhere. The chaotic scene made Suyu unconsciously raise his guard. "You should all stick together. Don't leave our encirclement," Monk Zhou shouted in a deep voice. In history, there had been many cases where the Central Prefecture's factions had taken advantage of the chaos to assassinate the Mu language experts of the Fong clan. Of course, the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands had also done similar things. Under their protection, they finally reached the campsite prepared by the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands. Since they were all on the same side, they could relax a little. "Okay, all of you, go into the tent. There are formations outside, and even middle-stage divine masters can't do anything to you for a short while," Monk Zhou said. At this moment, the orange-robed man entered the tent with a smile and lifted the curtain. "Master Qian, please go in first." Such a fawning and almost flattering action made the crowd feel uncomfortable. Junior brother Qian enjoyed such treatment, and he even called him Master Qian, which was quite pleasing to the ear. Hence, he didn't decline the responsibility and entered the tent first. Monk Zhou and the deputy general manager were guarding the tent's vicinity. When they saw junior brother Qian enter, their tense nerves relaxed a little. Junior brother Qian was the most important person here, and accidents could happen to anyone but him. "Okay, all of you go in as well." Monk Zhou waved his hand, his expression becoming more relaxed. "What are you doing? Why did you close the seal?" However, before he could heave a sigh of relief, a miserable shriek echoed from the tent. The shriek was so abrupt that it caught everyone off guard. "Awful." Monk Zhou and the deputy general manager's expressions changed at the same time, and they immediately rushed into the tent. They had clearly inspected the tent in advance, and there weren't any traps or dangers. So what was going on with the shriek? However, when they tried to barge in, they discovered that the tent's seal had been closed from the inside, and it was difficult to break it from the outside. Chapter 885. After 10 breaths passed, Monk Zhou and the deputy general manager worked together, and they finally broke the restriction. When they opened the curtain to take a look, what caused their hearts to go cold was that within the tent, only junior brother Qian's headless corpse remained. His head was coldly tossed to the side. His face was filled with pain, confusion, and surprise. Monk Zhou rushed over and checked. His expression was so dark that it looked like it was about to drip water. His head was instantly severed and his soul was destroyed. It's the orange-robed, Wood tribe language expert who went in first. Wasn't he an outer court elder of the returning principal palace? How could it be? The deputy general manager's heart sank to the bottom, and his limbs turned cold. Needless to say, this outer sect elder had been bribed by the central state. He had endured until now. He had used the restrictions of the tent and junior marshal brother Qian's arrogance and vanity to successfully destroy the heavily protected junior marshal brother Qian's body and soul. He had also used the space talisman to successfully escape. It's over, it's all over. Without junior brother Qian, who would be able to deal with Qin Lin, the two top Wood tribe language masters? How could a half-baked master of Wood Clan's language be a match for those two masters? A bad feeling welled up in Monk Zhou and the deputy general manager's hearts. The situation was so serious that it couldn't get any worse. None of the previous sacrifices were as bad as this one. The rest of the Wood Clan's language experts were also horrified. They shuddered, and their confident faces were now filled with despair. Their foundation wasn't even 30% of junior brother Qian's. How could they resist two top masters with such a standard? This time, they would definitely return in defeat, and the Heavenly Knife Regent would obtain the right to set up elixir stores would be an astronomical figure. At that time, half of the Blessed and Heavenly Land's territory would be devoured. As time went by, more than half of Tinya City fell into the hands of the Heavenly Knife Regent. Even the deputy general manager, Monk Zhou, the head general manager, and the general manager of the Purple Cloud Palace's headquarters would not be able to bear the wrath of their factions, let alone the few language experts like them. The consequences were too terrifying. Right at this moment, a mocking voice came from outside the camp. "Hey, what's going on? Everyone from the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands. Why do you look like you're in mourning? Did someone important die? Why do you look so pale?" When the crowd looked over, they saw Huangge, who wore a mocking look, standing in the distance with his hands clasped behind his back. "Bullshit. Too late. Return." Monk Zhou flew into a rage, and his eyes turned bloodshot. He was extremely infuriated. The deputy general manager's face was also extremely gloomy, and his killing intent rose. When the two 7th grade Almighty got angry, Huangge, who was merely a 5th grade Almighty, instantly lost his life. Haha, are the people of the Blessed Enclave so uneducated? You want to vent your anger on someone else for no reason? An aged voice transmitted over, while a white silhouette flickered and a white-clothed old man appeared in front of Huangge. When this old man appeared, the expressions of the deputy general manager and Monk Zhou changed at the same time, and they said in surprise, "Stars Plucking Old Monster, you unexpectedly also came here." Stars Plucking Old Monster was a famous expert under the command of the Heavenly Knife Regent Master. His cultivation was at the level 8 Divine Master realm, and his Stars Plucking hand was difficult to deal with. Even if the deputy general manager and Monk Zhou joined hands, they would not be a match for him. If you want to offer a sacrifice, you should behave yourself and do so. If you want to cause trouble, I don't mind stretching my body. Old Monster Zhai Xing smiled, but the words he spoke were cold. Monk Zhou clenched his teeth. The enemy was stronger than him. It wasn't suitable for him to face him head-on. Our Purple Cloud Palace will remember this debt, and we will surely settle it with you after this. I'll be waiting for you at any time. Hee, you should also prepare yourselves, as the sacrificial ceremony will shortly begin. Old Monster Zhai Xing chuckled and left with Huangge, who wore a hideous smile on his face. Hateful. The deputy general manager clenched his fists, while hatred welled up in his heart. It was obvious that they had assassinated junior brother Qian, who was the most important person to them. Yet, they still threatened them, saying that if they dared to cause trouble, they would attack them, inverting right and wrong, and maliciously humiliating them. They were really intolerable bullies. Seniors, please calm down. It's fine if they just killed someone, so why did they come here just to mock us? Don't fall for their provocation, Suyu said. The deputy general manager and Monk Zhou were both people with outstanding cultivations, and it was inevitable for them to act impulsively. When Suyu's words reached their ears, they immediately understood what he meant, and they forced themselves to calm down. Junior martial brother Qian was already dead. If they lost their composure, they would lose even more miserably in this sacrificial offering. The deputy general manager looked at Suyu and reluctantly revealed a faint smile. His face then became gloomy as he said, "The 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands property in Tinya City has reached a moment of life and death. Junior brother Qian was framed by scoundrels, but you are still here. I need all of you to pull yourselves together and fight for glory for the sect and the Blessed and Heavenly Lands." After he and Monk Zhou took turns cheering them on, everyone recovered some of their energy, but the overall atmosphere was still gloomy. After the deputy general manager and monk Zhou discussed it for a while, they arranged the order of the sacrificial offerings. Lu Chui was ranked first, as she was from the same faction as junior brother Qian, and she had learned a lot of his teachings. She was followed by the few language experts who had interacted with junior brother Qian the previous night. Master Gao and Su Yu were ranked last. Because they had almost no communication with junior brother Qian, they were the least hopeful. "Everyone, follow me. Don't give up until the last moment," the deputy general manager shouted. In fact, he was more desperate than anyone else. If they relied on such a clueless team, they would definitely suffer a crushing defeat. Of course, it was only a matter of how crushing the defeat would be. What they were thinking about now was how to report back to the sect. Amidst the heavy atmosphere, they arrived in front of the desolate, evil jungle. There was a small sacrificial altar in front of the jungle that was about 1,000 feet tall. Its whole body was made of wood, and the wood was quite special. Even though it had experienced the passage of time, it didn't show any signs of rotting. The top of the sacrificial altar was flat and spacious, and there were many densely packed words on the ground. They were as numerous as the stars in the sky, and they were as vast as millions of grains of sand. They were all Wood Clan's words, but it was a pity that they were too crowded, so only a few of them could be recognized. When the sacrificial offering begins, a row of Wood Clan's words will flicker on the sacrificial altar, and it will display a message. Among the 18 blessed and heavenly lands and heavenly knife regions language experts, whoever can decipher the message first will win a point, and if their score surpasses their opponent by 10 points, their opponent will be eliminated. The further the sacrificial offering goes, the more difficult it will be. You must remember to grasp the early and late stages well. Even the two famous Wood Clan's language experts, Qin and Lin, can't do anything about it. So, you don't need to be too strict about the late stages, the deputy general manager explained. So you pondered this for a moment, then asked, "May I ask which part is the early stage, the middle stage, and the late stage?" The first half hour is the easiest. If junior brother Qian is here, there won't be any difficulty. The second half hour is the middle stage, and it's very difficult to decipher it. Junior brother Qian is always defeated by the two top-notch masters in this stage. The last half hour is the extreme stage, and it's very difficult to understand the Wood Clan's words. Su Yu understood everything clearly. For hours later, a pair of eyes fell on the sacrificial altar. Millions of martial artists stood densely on the altar, both in the sky and on the ground. The master of ceremonies, who was dressed in heavy clothes, announced the start of the sacrificial offering, and a large number of sacrificial offerings were pushed to the front of the desolate, evil jungle. As long as Wood Clan's words appeared on the sacrificial altar, they would have to put in a batch of spiritual objects. "Both sides, please come onto the stage," the master of ceremonies announced loudly. Lu Chui went onto the stage calmly and stood on the left side of the sacrificial altar. On the other side, two men came up at the same time. No, to be precise, it was a single man. It was a two-headed man. He had one body, and two different heads grew on his neck at the same time. Both of them had white hair. Such a deformed appearance should have made him look ferocious. However, the two heads were quiet, and their eyes were sharp and clear. They gave people a scholarly feeling, and it was difficult to discriminate against them. They are the two language masters, Qin Lin. Killing intent surged in the deputy general manager's eyes. How much of Tinya City's territory had been invaded by the Heavenly Knife region thanks to these two masters? If the two of them weren't killed, the 18 blessed and heavenly lands would be driven out of Tinya City sooner or later. However, the two of them were protected by late-stage, almighty divine masters. So who could threaten them? She's just a little girl. Hee. Is there no one else in the 18 blessed and heavenly lands? The head on the left chuckled arrogantly. Don't be careless. Let's go all out. The head on the right was much calmer. Buzz. All of a sudden, the sacrificial altar below the stage started rotating gently. The complicated and crowded words beneath their feet looked like stars. At first glance, it looked like a starry sky map. Anyone who looked at it would feel dizzy. All of a sudden, a few of the words lit up. The two masters, Qin Lin, immediately took out a scroll and engraved a few lines of small words with their vital energy. The master of ceremonies handed the jade pendant to Hu Wangue, who was below the stage, and Hu Wangue handed it over to the people in front of the desolate evil jungle, who were responsible for delivering the offerings. The person in charge grabbed the jade pendant and glanced at it, only to see the words written on it. In the southeast direction, a third-grade demonic beast, 3-5 water caltrip, clear profound fruits, 3 low-grade spirit weapons. The person in charge followed the instructions and threw the items into the desolate evil jungle. He only heard the sound of dragging in the forest, followed by the wretched screams of the demonic beasts. Finally, the forest returned to silence. And on the arena, under Qin Lin's feet, a pure, almost primitive energy overflowed, bathing them in it. Suyu was slightly startled, as this energy was abnormally pure and didn't contain any impurities. It seemed like it had been cleansed by the Milky Way star sand. Where did this energy come from? Suyu was curious. When it was Lu Chuyi's turn, she was trying very hard to decipher the Wood Clan's language. After a long while, she finished writing a sentence and handed it to the person in charge of the Purple Cloud Palace. They followed Lu Chuyi's interpretation and placed the offerings. In the end, an angry roar came from the forest halfway through the projection. There was no movement beneath Lu Chuyi's feet. The MC said, "Qin Lin gets 1 point." Lu Chuyi wasn't anxious or impatient, and she continued with the second round. In the second round, she managed to decipher the Wood Clan's language, but Qin Lin and the MC didn't face any difficulty either. In the third round, she failed, while Qin Lin succeeded. In the fourth round, she succeeded, while Qin Lin succeeded. After an hour, Lu Chuyi finally made 10 mistakes, while Qin Lin didn't fail even once. The whole process was as easy as usual. Qin Lin beat Lu Chuyi by 10 points, and she was eliminated. However, Qin Lin and the MC's offerings weren't over yet, as they had just entered the intermediate stage, which was still quite difficult. Chapter 886. The altar shook and it spun even faster. The wood race characters that appeared were even more complex and jerky. Moreover, they only lasted for half the time before they transformed into new ancient characters. In other words, the number of ancient characters that appeared in an hour during the middle stage was twice that of the early stage. Qin Lin and the other two reacted quickly. They immediately tried to decipher it, and it was correct. The Master of Ceremonies said, "Qin Lin gets 2 points." In the second round, Qin Lin and Xiao Chun succeeded again and got 2 more points. The third round was a success. The fourth round, in the 11th round, he failed. At this time, the altar completely stopped working, so you could see it clearly. In the early stages, he could make an unlimited number of mistakes, but in the middle stages, he would fail if he made a single mistake. Moreover, if a successful interpretation in the early stage was worth 1 point, and the middle stage was worth 2 points, then how many points would the late stage be worth? Lu Chuyi was eliminated in the early stage, so she naturally walked down the arena and was replaced by a new contestant. Not bad, little girl. You have some of the essence of the boy surnamed Qian. The two heads of Qin Lin praised in unison. The deputy general manager and Monk Zhou were also satisfied with Lu Chuyi's performance. She had persisted longer than they had expected. However, when he looked at Qin Lin, his brows furrowed even deeper. Compared to last year, these two had delved even deeper into the wood race's characters. They had actually deciphered the 11th round. In the past, it had never exceeded 9 cycles. The MC said, Lu Chuyi got 5 points. Qin Lin got 15 points in the early stage and 20 points in the late stage. His total is 35 points. According to the rules set by both sides, the points will accumulate until the end of the sacrificial ceremony. Whoever has the highest number of points will be the winner. The winner's total points minus the opponent's total points will be the number of shops the winner will get. This was the rule that had been set back then. If the winner was the Heavenly Knife region, it would indeed be so. If the winner was the blessed and heavenly lands, the heavenly knife region would reduce the number of elixir stores by a certain amount until they completely withdrew from Tianya City. The next one was another Mu language expert from the returning Principal Palace's Yufeng School, Yu Chengwen. As for Qin and Lin, because they had the upper hand in the previous round, they still maintained their positions as the ringmasters and did not need to be replaced. So you wanted to take the initiative to step forward and defeat both Qin and Lin. This way, he could prevent his side from losing a large number of points. However, when Suyu saw the deputy general manager and Monk Zhou's gloomy faces, he gave up on the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Even if he spoke now, they would not agree. Fine, what does the Red Blood Palace's business in Tianya City have to do with me? I'll just do my best, Suyu said. Yu Chengwen was slightly weaker than Lu Chuyi. He had only succeeded in 4 rounds and had lasted for a while. On the other hand, Qin Lin and Lin Sun had broken through to the middle stage in one go and had succeeded in another 10 rounds. Yu Chengwen, 4 points, Qin Lin, 35 points. The next round, Hua Humei of the Demon Eye Sect. Her foundation was even weaker than Chengwen's, and she was defeated after 3 rounds. Qin Lin still made it to the middle stage, but this time he only made it to the 9th round. Hua Humei, 3 points, Qin Lin, 33 points. When the deputy general manager and Monk Zhou saw this, their expressions became extremely unsightly. In the past, with junior brother Qian holding the line, they could gain a lot of points. Now, the highest score they had was only 5 points from Lu Chui. The gap between them was huge. According to the situation where 1 point higher would get 10 shops, the other side had already obtained 90 shops. It was equivalent to 10% of the shops of the Red Blood Palace and the Purple Cloud Palace. And the competition had just begun. Afterward, the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands factions challenged them one after another. After half a day had passed, the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands factions descended into deathly silence. No one could utter a single word as they looked at the miserable sight before them. They carried out another 9 sacrifices, and they were all defeated miserably. Moreover, their losses were getting more and more miserable. In the last 5 times, the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands scored 0 points. The gap between the two side scores was now more than 400 points. What did this mean? It meant that half of the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Land shops had been snatched away. This was half of the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Land shops. The factions would surely not forgive them for suffering such great losses. In the past, even though junior brother Qian wasn't a match for Qin Lin and Lin Sun, he could still fight the other Wood Clan's languages experts and crush them easily. But without junior brother Qian, who could recover such a great amount of points? There are only 2 rounds left. The 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands are really getting worse year by year. Huan Gui pursed his lips and revealed a faint smile. Victory was already in his grasp, and he had spent a great deal of effort to bribe the returning principal factions Wood Clan's languages experts to deal with the thorny guy surnamed Qian. Everything went according to his expectations, and after they got rid of the last 2 Wood Clan's languages experts, the result was basically set. Half of the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands shops were emptied. In the future, Tianya City would become the Heavenly Knife region's territory. The deputy general manager and Monk Zhou couldn't utter a single word. Even though they looked calm on the surface, their hearts were already numb from despair. Next round, Master Gao, please come onto the stage. Qinlin looked at him and said calmly, since you're ranked last, it means that even the Red Blood Palace doesn't have a good opinion of you. Is there any need to continue? The 5 people before him had all scored 0 points, and it wouldn't be an accident for this one. Master Gao said calmly, let's start. The 13th round of sacrificial offerings will start now. As the crowd cheered, the sacrificial offerings finally started. As the altar revolved, a row of Wood Clan's languages words appeared. Qinlin casually wrote down his interpretation on a scroll and threw it at Huan Gui. At this moment, they were surprised to discover that Huan Gui was also writing, and he was just 1 or 2 breaths behind him. So fast. Qinlin was surprised. Even Lu Chuyi, who was ranked at the top, was much slower than them. What kind of ability could this old man, who was ranked second, have? With some skepticism, Qin Lin watched as the other party interpreted, wrote, and handed over to the person in charge for sacrifice. In the end, a layer of hazy energy appeared above Master Gao's head and bathed his body. Qin Lin's face froze a little. Traces of seriousness condensed in his eyes as they noticed something unusual. The old man in front of him was different from all the so-called experts of the Wood Clan's language. Their intuition told them that this old man was not simple. Huan Gui furrowed his brows. A coincidence? 1 point from Qin Lin. Master Gao, the deputy general manager, was already numb. The former had all scored 0 points, and Master Gao had not received any guidance from junior brother Qian, so he could only score 0 points. 1 point. The unusual voice was like a stone that caused a ripple in the deputy general manager's heart. He couldn't help but open his eyes, which were like stagnant water, with a trace of concern. The altar continued to spin, and the second row of Wood Clan characters appeared. Qin Lin was relaxed, and so was Master Gao. They both succeeded. The deputy general manager forced a smile. At least he wasn't as miserable as the previous few people, but what was the point? With such a huge difference in points, how could a single person change the situation? The competition continued. In the third round, both sides got 1 point each. Master Gao had succeeded 3 times in a row, while Lu Chuyi hadn't managed to do it. In the fourth round, both sides got 1 point each. In the end, the deputy general manager noticed that something was amiss, and he opened his eyes wide. A wisp of hope lit up in his deathly still eyes. The 18 blessed and heavenly lands members, who were depressed, pained, and ashamed, looked at the arena in surprise. What happened? Is that old man really one of us? He's the famous Master Gao. Do you think that he's from our 18 blessed and heavenly lands? At this moment, the 5th round started, and both sides got 1 point each. Hiss! He succeeded in 5 rounds in a row, and he still managed to do it easily. Oh my god! Master Gao's attainment in the Wood Clan's language is so high. It doesn't make sense. If that's the case, why did the deputy general manager and monk Zhou rank him second from the bottom? They couldn't understand this, and neither could the deputy general manager and monk Zhou. Their dispirited feelings disappeared, and they became spirited. Their eyes flickered with a bright light, and they clenched their fists behind their backs. It was obvious that they were nervous and excited. Old Monster Wu, this Master Gao's performance isn't inferior to my junior brother Qian's. If you had such an expert, why didn't you take him out earlier? If you had placed him at the forefront, he might have been able to turn the situation around. Monk Zhou was both excited and resentful. The deputy general manager wore a puzzled look. I also don't understand this. Master Gao started learning the Wood Clan's language 3 years ago, and I tested him several days ago. He should be quite ordinary, so I don't know why he has such a great performance. Is there such a thing? Monk Zhou looked at the deputy general manager doubtfully. How could he believe such words? The deputy general manager found this both infuriating and funny. Was there a need for him to lie? The difference between Master Gao's performance before and after was too great, and it was beyond his expectations. Let's talk about this later. Let's watch the competition first. If Master Gao can be as skilled as junior brother Qian, he might be able to turn the situation around, the deputy general manager said in a deep voice. He couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva because of his anticipation and excitement. Even though Monk Zhou was doubtful, his gaze was fixed on Master Gao, who had soared to the sky in one go. In the 6th round, both of them got a point. In the 7th round, both of them got a point. In the 8th round, both of them got a point. As the competition progressed further, the 18 blessed and heavenly land side became even more fired up. They unexpectedly had an Apex Wood Clan's language expert, and he was on par with Qin Lin. Even the millions of spectators in the surroundings were attracted by this sudden turn of events, and they were all dumbfounded. What is the 18 blessed and heavenly lands doing? If they had such an expert, they should have sent him there long ago. I was worried for nothing. Haha, interesting. I got bored just watching this, but an amazing old man suddenly appeared in the end. The 18 blessed and heavenly land side became excited and fired up, while Star's plucker old monster's expression changed drastically when he noticed that the situation was far from good. He pointed at Master Gao, who was on the stage, and shouted in a deep voice, "Huangui, what's going on? Didn't you say that you would think of a way to get rid of the opponent's thorny character? Why is there another person who is strong and not weak?" Huangui's expression became gloomy. "I don't know. Master Gao's skill is obviously average, and I also don't know why he could have such a shocking performance. Humph. You better pray that you manage to occupy more stores than last time. Otherwise, the Heavenly Knife Region's master will consider replacing you," Star's plucker old monster said. Huangui said, "Sir, you can set your mind at ease about this. Even if we didn't manage to get half of the opponent's elixir stores, it is already a foregone conclusion that we will occupy more stores than last time." In the 11th round, they both got a point. In the 12th round, after an hour passed, the preliminary stage came to an end, and both sides got 15 points each. A grave look appeared in Qin Lin's eyes, and he asked in a deep voice, "Who is your teacher? Even the person surnamed Qian isn't as skilled as you." Master Gao's expression was calm and indifferent. He said, "You don't need to know this. Just continue." The intermediate stage competition started. In the first round, they both got a point. In the second round, they both got a point. In the 5th round, they both got a point. In the 5th round, they persisted until the 5th round. Even junior brother Qian, who was the strongest, could only persist until the 4th round. The deputy general manager and Monk Zhou almost cried out in excitement. It was a surprise. It was too surprising. Junior brother Qian died. Yet another expert, who was even more amazing than him, appeared. According to the rules, after all the people from the blessed and heavenly lands are challenged, they would have the opportunity to choose one person to challenge the other people from the Heavenly Knife region. Master Gao's performance was enough to crush all of them and get back a large number of points. The losses they suffered this time weren't as great as they had imagined. This nourished their despairing hearts, and a hint of redness appeared on their ashen faces. They couldn't help but reveal delighted smiles. However, Master Gao had already reached his limit in the 5th round, and his speed was slower than Qin Lin's. In the 6th round, he couldn't decipher it, so he gave up and got off the stage. Qin Lin's mentality might have changed due to the pressure, and he only managed to reach the 8th round. Qin Lin got a score of 31 points. Master Gao 25 points. The master of ceremonies stumbled. He was surprised by such a strange score. The first round was terrible, and the last round was amazing. Were the people from the blessed and heavenly land stupid? Why did they only use their trump card now? Master Gao got off the stage, and the deputy general manager and Monk Zhou stood up at the same time to welcome him. They had smiles on their faces, and they were full of praise. "Haha, I didn't expect you to be a true expert. I was blind, and I have offended you in the past. Please forgive me," Monk Zhou said with a chuckle. Back then, in order to appease junior brother Qian, he had caused Master Gao to suffer. The deputy general manager also wore an apologetic look. "Please don't take last night's matter to heart." Master Gao nodded with a faint smile. "Sirs, what are you talking about? It's my duty to work hard for the blessed and heavenly lands, and suffering a few grievances isn't worth mentioning." The deputy general manager felt relieved. "Master Gao, I'll have to trouble you later to challenge the other people. I think you can get back a large number of points." Master Gao pointed at Su Yu, who was sitting in a corner, and no one paid any attention to him. He didn't go onto the stage, so I don't think it's my turn to go onto the stage a second time. "Him? Who?" The deputy general manager and Monk Zhou looked in the direction where Master Gao's finger was pointing, and they noticed Su Yu, who had been forgotten. Ever since he had been driven out of the seal by junior brother Qian the day before, he had been forgotten. No one had mentioned him, and they had been so emotional that they hadn't noticed him. If Master Gao hadn't reminded them, they would have forgotten about Su Yu. Monk Zhou revealed a faint smile and said, "Master Gao, you must be joking. Only with you here can we be safe." Master Gao turned a deaf ear to him and walked towards Su Yu. He bowed solemnly and said in shame, "Teacher, I'm a stupid student, and I only managed to persist for 20 rounds. I'm really ashamed of your teachings yesterday." Suyu was helpless. He had already warned him not to expose his master's identity, but he had still been too careless. Perhaps he was really ashamed of himself, but he had inadvertently exposed Suyu. You don't need to blame yourself. Reaching such a level in a single night is within my expectations. Once you master yesterday's teachings, you will surely make great progress. Suyu approved of his performance. I will follow your teachings. Master Gao stood up and stood half a step behind Suyu. Such a familiar posture clearly showed that they had a teacher-student relationship. The audience, who didn't know what was going on, started discussing it. However, those who were familiar with the inside story were dumbfounded. Chapter 887. What's going on? After a long time, the deputy general manager asked awkwardly. He couldn't understand why Suyu had become Master Gao's teacher. After all, Suyu wasn't even 20 years old, and even if he had started studying the Wood Clan's language since he was young, he was still far from being able to master it. Suyu chuckled. He didn't explain further as he quietly walked toward the altar. Compared to the deputy general manager and the others who were puzzled, Qin Lin and the others were as if they were facing a formidable enemy. If the students he taught were so powerful, how powerful would the teacher himself be? Dare we ask for your name? Qin Lin and the others cupped their hands and said. Suyu calmly said, "Nameless person, let's begin the sacrifice." Qin Lin and Suyu took a deep look at Suyu and became alert. It was as if they felt a great pressure. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The sacrificial ceremony began once again. The altar spun, and the star-like characters beneath his feet shone resplendently, forming a combination of characters. Qin Lin and the other two quickly scanned through every bright word and organized them into a complete sentence. With their attainments in the wood race's language, it would only take them 5 breaths to decipher it. All right, the interpretation is complete. The two heads had the same thought, so they immediately took out the scrolls and quickly recorded their own translation of the sacrificial text. Take it. A voice floated into their ears. When they looked up, their pupils constricted. While they were still carving, Suyu had already thrown the carved jade pendants to the relevant personnel and sent them to the front line. This. Both Qin and Lin sucked in a breath of cold air. The tens of thousands of spectators were also in an uproar. Did you see that? How did he interpret it? A million pairs of eyes flashed with amazement. I saw it. The first breath after the Wood Clan characters lit up, he only gave him a glance, and then began to record them. Someone said in amazement, "Such a fast deciphering speed. It's as if he's reading the human language and not the rare wood race language." As the crowd discussed this matter spiritedly, the deputy general manager and Monk Zhou revealed an expression that made them feel as if they were dreaming. In the past, Qin and Lin were the ones who had completed the inscription first, and then the rest of them would take their time to decipher it. Now that everything was reversed, they were unable to adapt. He was able to decipher it twice as fast as Qin and Lin. What did this mean? It showed that Suyu's familiarity with the Mu words had reached the point of perfection, and he had reached the realm of having them at his fingertips. Old Monster Wu, you really hid yourself deeply. You found such an apex expert, but you didn't say anything. Monk Zhou was pleasantly surprised for a short while, but displeasure appeared on his face. Even though all the great factions had formed an alliance to resist the Heavenly Knife region together, they were not united. There was a rule among them that the sects that suffered more losses in the sacrificial ceremony would have to compensate a larger portion of the elixir shops. For example, although they had lost last time, junior brother Qian had contributed greatly, so they had to compensate the Heavenly Knife region with 100 shops. Among them, the Purple Cloud Palace had only compensated 10 shops, while the Red Blood Palace had contributed the least, so they had compensated 30 shops. I was wondering why you agreed to drive them out of the restriction. It turns out that you were afraid that our people would learn his inheritance. Monk Zhou was somewhat jealous, and he spoke without thinking. The deputy general manager was speechless. How could he know that the Wood Clan's language expert he found by chance was actually a peerless master? However, when he heard Monk Zhou's words becoming more and more outrageous, he couldn't help but get angry. He sneered coldly and said, "You still have the face to mention this matter? When your junior brother Qian was so arrogant that he forced Su Yu to leave, did you try to dissuade him? If you had suppressed your junior brother Qian's temper a little, that night, Su Yuxian would have been able to instruct everyone present, and they wouldn't have lost so miserably. Now, you're blaming me for hiding him?" Monk Zhou regretted his words as soon as they left his mouth. After he was reprimanded, he couldn't help but blush. "I have forgotten my manners. Old friend, please don't take offense." As Monk Zhou looked at the calm, sage-like Su Yu on the stage, he sighed and said, "It's my fault. I allowed junior brother Qian to be so insolent and wasted everyone's time." Master Gao had a mediocre foundation, but after he received Su Yu's teachings for a night, he had soared into the sky and amazed a million people. If he had reprimanded junior brother Qian on that day, everyone would have been able to improve their foundation. I only just learned that he has such a profound foundation. We will know after asking him about it. The deputy general manager's anger had calmed down, and he looked at Su Yu, who was on the stage. How did he manage to reach such a level? In the first round, Su Yu will get 1 point, and Qin Lin will get 1 point. The second round started. As expected, Su Yu managed to decipher the words with just a casual glance, as if he was eating or drinking. As for Qin Lin, he had to stare at it for 4 or 5 breaths before he managed to decipher the meaning of the words. In the second round, Su Yu will get 1 point, and Qin Lin will get 1 point. In the third round, Su Yu will get 1 point, and Qin Lin will get 1 point. In the 15th round, Su Yu will get 1 point, and Qin Lin will get 1 point. At this moment, Qin Lin and the deputy general manager didn't dare to show any signs of relaxation, and they faced Su Yu as if they were facing a great enemy. It's already the middle stage. Let's ask for your distinguished name once again, Qin Lin and the deputy general manager said solemnly. In the beginning, they had lost. They had lost completely, and the way they addressed Su Yu had changed from name to distinguished name. Su Yu's importance in their hearts had gradually increased. "I've already said that I'm just a nobody." Su Yu waved his hand at them. "Continue." The altar's rotation became faster, and it was twice as fast as it had been in the beginning. The words appeared only for a short time, and they were even more difficult to understand. Qin Lin and the deputy general manager needed more than 8 breaths' time to decipher them. As for Su Yu, when the millions of spectators were dumbfounded, he still took a casual glance at them before he carved the translated words and handed them over to the frontline personnel for sacrifice. It seemed like he was still in the early stage, and the so-called increase in difficulty didn't affect him at all. As for Qin Lin and the deputy general manager, it took them 8 breaths' time to start carving the words. If one observed them carefully, one would notice that fine beads of sweat had appeared on their foreheads. They were nervous, not because the middle stage was difficult, but because their opponents were too powerful. They were unimaginably powerful, and they were under great pressure. A wisp of pure energy was infused into Su Yu's body, and it slowly and steadily caused his dantian to overflow. He had succeeded. His actions caused the millions of spectators to exclaim in surprise once again. "Who is this old man? Does our 18 blessed and heavenly lands have such a peerless writing expert? Don't you know him?" Someone asked disdainfully. "I haven't seen him before, as I just came here. Could he be some famous person?" The person who replied shook his head in confusion. "Do you know the Tonglin elixir stores, shopkeeper Su?" "What? It's him. The shopkeeper Su who sells the heart-refining mortal dust liquid?" The people who didn't know the truth were shocked. Everyone in Tianya City knew about the heart-refining mortal dust liquid, and they all knew that its owner was a young shopkeeper named Su Yuxian. The people of the 18 blessed and heavenly lands felt extremely proud of themselves. After so many years, they finally had a master of Mu words, and he was a top master who could crush Qin Lin and the deputy general manager. In front of Su Yuxian, the Mu words master who used to be the central prefecture's top master was like a student. The feeling of being able to hold one's head high was indescribable. Lu Chuyi's beautiful eyes flickered slightly as she stared at Su Yu's figure. She didn't know why, but the more she looked at Su Yu, the more she felt like she had met him before. His subtle gestures, speech, and temperament all overlapped with the figure hidden deep in her mind. The same transcendent temperament, gentle and refined, the same calm and collected, the same light and breezy clouds, the same dazzling and shocking everyone. Everything that was happening before her eyes was similar to the silver-haired youth called Inu in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. However, one of them was a youngster, while the other was a white-haired old man. Who is he? Lu Chuyi looked at Su Yu, her heart filled with puzzlement. Killing intent appeared on Huan Gui's face. It's Su Yushin again. He threw out the heart-refining mortal dust liquid and destroyed Huan Gui's plan to suppress the Red Blood Palace. Then, he appeared halfway and destroyed Huan Gui's sacrificial ceremony plan. This person had continuously destroyed his meticulously arranged plans. Was he doing this on purpose? Things were getting worse and worse, in an unprecedented direction. A petite person was among the crowd, leaning against a beautiful middle-aged woman. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and stared coldly at Su Yu, who was on the stage. I really didn't expect that he would hide it so deeply. He didn't reveal his talent in Mu words at all in the Demon Mountain. Well, I must have misjudged him. He's still a genius, and it wouldn't be impossible to recruit him for the Severed Fairy Cliff, Fairy Ling said coldly. Bright Moon Householder and Mistress Chin were also among the crowd. I really didn't expect that he would be so amazing. Bright Moon Householder's eyes shone with a cold glint. Mistress Chin's gaze became ice-cold. Humph. He's the one who caused trouble in my Shurjan bookyard, isn't he? Now that he's in the limelight, I won't forgive him later. The sacrificial ceremony was still going on. In the second round, Su Yushin got 2 points, and Qin Lin got 2 points. In the eighth round, Su Yushin got 2 points, and Qin Lin got 2 points. The current Su Yu was still calm and composed, as if he could do whatever he wanted. As for Qin Lin and Mistress Qin Lin, they had obviously reached their limit. They were drenched in sweat, as if they had used up all of their energy. Great Master, may I ask your great name once again? Qin Lin had already addressed Su Yu as a great master. It could be seen from this that they were already in awe of Su Yu. I'm just a nobody, Su Yu replied concisely. In the next round, Su Yu succeeded, while Qin Lin, who was under great pressure, couldn't answer him in time. In the 10th round, Su Yushin succeeded, and he got 2 points. In the 11th round, Su Yushin succeeded, and he got 2 points. He had already reached the 11th round, which was the highest record set by Qin Lin and Mistress Qin Lin. However, the million spectators didn't find it strange. Instead, they felt that it was only natural. In the 12th round, he succeeded. In the 13th round, he succeeded. In the 30th round, he succeeded. The later stage of the sacrificial ceremony will start now, the Master of Ceremonies announced in a trembling voice. Since the start of the sacrificial ceremony, it was the first time that someone had managed to reach the later stage. This was unprecedented. The sacrificial altar sped up once again, and its speed was now 3 times faster than before. Moreover, the Wood Clan's words that appeared were quite rare. Qin Lin and Mistress Qin Lin, who were standing below the stage, were nervously watching the sacrificial altar with excitement. This was their first time seeing the Wood Clan's words in the later stage. Swoosh. Chapter 888. Can you see it clearly? How many words do you recognize? The left head asked. Out of the 9 Wood Clan characters, I only recognized 3. The left head replied. I only recognized 2 of them. If he couldn't even recognize the words, how could he form a paragraph or translate it? The later stages were far beyond their abilities. It was an area that they could not touch. The 2 heads stared at Su Yu at the same time. Did he successfully decipher it? Su Yu, who was on the altar, wasn't as relaxed as before, as he couldn't translate it with just a single glance. So, after he swept his gaze over it, he muttered to himself irresolutely for 2 breaths time before he started to translate it. Under everyone's nervous gazes, the jade pendant was sent all the way to the person in charge at the front line. He followed the translation and threw the offering inside. All of a sudden, pure milky white energy fell from the top of Su Yu's head. This amount of energy was more than 3 times that of the previous period. He succeeded, people exclaimed. It only took 2 breaths. Master Qin Lin also needed 4 breaths to decipher the early stage. Don't tell me that the later stages are not difficult for him. Who on earth did the blessed and heavenly lands invite? Are you sure that he isn't a true Wood tribe member? As they gasped in surprise, Su Yu continued to translate, and he was extremely accurate, not making a single mistake. First round, Su Yushin succeeded, 3 points. Second round, success, 3 points. Third round, success, 3 points. Round 30, success, 3 points. He had already reached the 30th round. He was halfway through the latter stages. However, they also noticed that Su Yu's deciphering was gradually slowing down. This was because the Mu words became more and more obscure as he continued to decipher them. After reaching the 15th chapter, Qin Lin could basically recognize every single Wood clan's language. 31st round, success, 3 points. Round 38, success, 3 points. Round 40, success, 3 points. At the moment, Su Yu needed more than 10 breaths time to decipher it, which was a huge challenge for him. Only he knew why it was getting more and more difficult. It was because starting from the 30th round, the language gradually broke away from the normal Wood race's language. Instead, ancient Wood race's language appeared. It was a language that not many Wood race people could master. Yun Yazi had spent his entire life collecting many words. Su Yu was only able to make it to the 40th round, but his strength was not as strong as he wished. 41st round, success, 3 points. 42nd round, success, 3 points. 43rd round, success, 3 points. 44th, success, 3 points. At this point, Su Yu had already reached his limit, and he couldn't continue. He wasn't confident that he could decipher the last round. Moreover, the hour was almost up, and there were only a few breaths left. There wasn't enough time for him to think. However, when a few words appeared beneath his feet, Su Yu was surprised to discover that the words in the last round were golden in color, which was completely different from the previous ones. What's going on? Su Yu was secretly surprised, but he didn't have time to think about it. He quickly memorized a few words, and the time was up. Round 45 failed. The master of ceremonies' palms were trembling. He still found it difficult to get over the unprecedented sacrifice. After a long time, he said, Qin Lin scored 31 points, Su Yushin, 207 points. The gap between the two side scores had previously reached more than 400 points. However, Su Yu alone had directly brought back 200 points in just 1 round. How was this just turning the tide? Su Yu did not walk off the stage, as he was the winner. Hence, he was qualified to stand on the stage and continue to challenge the other participants of the opposing team. Come up one by one. Su Yu spoke calmly. He really wanted to see whether the golden words that appeared at the end of the 45th round were still the same. Hu Wangui's heart shuddered. If this continued, Su Yushin would get 200 points in each round, and after 14 rounds, wouldn't he get nearly 3,000 points? Even if he subtracted his previous advantage of 400 points, he would still have 2,500 points. After all, the Heavenly Knife region stores, which they had seized from the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands for many years, and the low-grade elixir stores, still only had a little more than 2,000 points. Did this mean that they would have to return all of the stores they had seized from them for many years? At this moment, Hu Wangui felt like the sky was collapsing. However, the matter was still progressing in the worst direction. The following Wood Clan's languages experts couldn't surpass the previous ones, and they were all eliminated in just a few rounds. As for Su Yu, he managed to reach the 44th step every time. After 1 round, 2 rounds, and 14 rounds, the sacrifice finally came to an end. Hu Wangui's heart was filled with despair. It's over. Everything is over. As for the deputy general manager and Monk Zhou, They were beaming with joy, and delight could be seen in the depths of their eyes. Moreover, it could be seen that their bodies were shivering slightly due to their excitement. It could be said that Tianya City's history had been rewritten on this day. The stores, which had been seized from them 10 years ago, were all seized back in one day. They were completely wiped out, and the Heavenly Knife Region's factions were driven away from the Tianya auction house. Tianya City finally belonged to the 18 blessed and heavenly lands. As Suyu walked off the stage, he recalled the Goldenwood clan's language's words that he had seen. He still couldn't translate them, as he didn't recognize many of them. However, he discovered that every time he came into contact with the golden words, the 200 grains of golden sand in his spatial ring would throb once, and they would throb more intensely. If Suyu took them out now, they would probably be ejected away. Based on his perception, Suyu discovered that they would be ejected toward the desolate, evil jungle. It seemed like the golden words had awakened the golden sand, and they had been summoned by something. The desolate, evil jungle, Yamu Daoran, passed away. Suyu muttered to himself irresolutely. He wondered whether he should risk his life with the golden sand, as they would probably return to the place where Yamu Daoran had passed away. The treasures left behind by a peerless expert who had surpassed the all-creation's realm were unimaginable. Ha ha! Suyu Xian, you have made great contributions to the 18 blessed and heavenly lands and the Red Blood Palace. I will report this to the faction, and they will reward you with 100,000 merit points. You can choose any item from the faction's treasury. The deputy general manager laughed heartily. He was delighted, and the more he looked at Suyu, the more he liked him. Suyu replied calmly, "Thank you for your kindness, deputy general manager." 100,000 merit points was an unexpected reward. He had spent a whole month in the Tonglin elixir store, but he had only earned 200,000 merit points. Thus, getting 100,000 merit points for free was a great reward. As for choosing an item from the faction's treasury, Suyu was also very tempted. He had used up all of his demon's hair, and he needed demonic treasures. Thus, the faction's offer for him to choose any item would solve his urgent need. "Hee, you deserve it." The deputy general manager patted Suyu's shoulder, unable to stop smiling. However, as he approached Suyu, he noticed something strange. "What happened to your cultivation? You have received so much pure energy, so why are you still a 5th grade fairy?" Even a 7th grade fairy would have made a breakthrough after receiving so much energy. How could he know that Suyu had 2 dantians? The energy had only filled 1/3 of Suyu's dantian, and he was still far from making a breakthrough. The amount of vital energy in his dantian was far greater than even an 8th grade fairy's, so the pure energy couldn't make up for it. "I have some problems with my cultivation, but they will be solved soon." "Deputy General Manager, you don't need to worry about it," Suyu said. The deputy general manager sighed. "You missed such a good opportunity. Under normal circumstances, you could have easily made a breakthrough to the 7th grade fairy." Suyu smiled, but didn't speak. "I have a question for you, and if you don't want to answer it, I won't make things difficult for you." The deputy general manager pondered it for a long time, then chose to ask him in a gentle way. He didn't want to press him too hard and anger Suyu. With such an expert in Mu words, the Heavenly Knife region wouldn't be able to cause any trouble in the future. So, how could he dare to offend him? Suyu said, "Deputy General Manager, please go ahead. Can you tell me how you obtained your attainments in the Wood Clan's language? Is it really an ancient book of Mu words?" The Deputy General Manager tried his best to speak in a gentle tone so that Suyu wouldn't feel disgusted. Monk Zhou pricked up his ears, while Qin Lin, Lu Chuyi, and the others couldn't help but look at him curiously. "It's not an ancient book. I'm sorry, but it wasn't convenient for me to divulge it before, so I hid it from you," Suyu said. "In fact, it was the old senior who gave me the heart-refining mortal dust liquid. He's quite proficient in Mu words, and I'm quite talented in this field. So, he passed it on to me so that his knowledge wouldn't be lost." The Deputy General Manager suddenly understood. The old senior who had given the heart-refining mortal dust liquid to him had caused an uproar in Tianya City, and everyone was speculating about it. Many people were confused as to why the old senior would give the ordinary Su Yuxian the ancient spiritual liquid. It seemed like Su Yuxian's talent in words had gotten the old senior's approval, which was why he had given him the heart-refining mortal dust liquid. After all, he wasn't even 20 years old, yet he had already mastered the Mu words to the point of perfection. Such talent was extremely rare. After the deputy general manager got rid of these two doubts in his mind, he didn't pursue this matter any further. Instead, he turned around and looked at Star's Plucker Old Monster with a smile. Star's Plucker Old Monster, I'm really sorry. It's rare for you to come here to offer a sacrifice, yet you ended up witnessing such an outcome. It seems like my 18 blessed and heavenly lands didn't treat you well. The deputy general manager was in high spirits, and he chuckled. Meng Zhou's face was also flushed. Well, even though you lost all of your shops this time, you shouldn't be discouraged, as the agreement between us still stands. In the future, you can still look for an even more amazing Mu Words Master. The expressions of the Heavenly Knife region's members stiffened, and their expressions became even more unsightly. They didn't utter a single word, as if their parents had just died. Hu Wangui's expression became gloomy, and despair appeared in his eyes. He was calculating in his mind unceasingly whether he would be able to survive the Heavenly Knife region's master's punishment. Star's Plucker Old Monster's white clothes fluttered in the wind as he stood up slowly. His aged face didn't seem as relaxed as before. When the deputy general manager and Monk Zhou detected Star's Plucker Old Monster's abnormality, their hearts tightened, and they calmly stood side by side. What? Star's Plucker Old Monster, do you want to go back on your word and violate the agreement between us? The deputy general manager asked coldly. Star's Plucker Old Monster shook his head. I'm just a nobody, so how could I dare to violate the agreement between our two regions? If I really do that, then the first person who won't let me off would be our region master. You can set your mind at ease, as we will compensate you according to the score. If they really went according to the score, then even if the Heavenly Knife region lost everything, it wouldn't be enough. Chapter 889. With Su Yu around, no matter how many Mu words experts the Heavenly Knife region sent, they wouldn't be able to make a comeback. The so-called agreement was as good as nothing, and the Heavenly Knife region wouldn't get any benefits. 10 years ago, didn't your Master Qin Lin have the same status as Su Yuxian now? Why didn't you talk about fairness? The deputy general manager sneered. They had turned a blind eye to the Heavenly Knife region's advantage. Now, it was their turn to be at a disadvantage, and they said it was unfair. Star's Plucker Old Freak acted as if he did not hear that. He muttered to himself, Therefore, for the sake of fairness, I have decided he must die. Star's Plucker Old Monster's aged eyes were filled with monstrous killing intent. The white shadow moved and suddenly attacked Su Yu. The deputy general manager and Monk Zhou had expected that the situation was anything but reassuring, and they reacted quickly. The situation has changed. Members of the blessed and heavenly lands, listen up. Protect Su Yuxian. Kill anyone who dares to approach him. Su Yuxian's importance was incomparable. How could he put his life in danger? The two of them joined hands to obstruct Star's Plucking Old Freak. Star Plucking Hand. Star's Plucking Old Monster's eyes were as cold as lightning, and he kept reaching out with his aged palms. The deputy general manager and Monk Zhou were hit, and they were immediately sent flying. The difference in their abilities was too great. Even if two 7th-grade Almighty joined forces, they would not be a match for an 8th-grade Almighty. You are too much of a hindrance. You must die. Star's Plucker Old Monster realized that unless Su Yu died, the Heavenly Knife region wouldn't be able to lay a finger on Tianya City. Shua. Just as he was about to attack, a figure dressed in a palace dress flashed past like a phantom, and a cyan sword drew a beautiful sword chi. Starjai Old Monster's eyes focused. Lu Chuyi. As the blessed in heavenly lands #1 female genius, Lu Chuyi, the Star's Plucking Old Monster had heard about her battle prowess. It was said that she had once fought against an 8th-grade Almighty and was only slightly at a disadvantage. Lu Chuyi looked at Su Yu deeply, then calmly said, You can't kill him. Whoosh! The deputy general manager and monk Zhou, who had been sent flying, rushed over and stood next to Lu Chui. Among the 3 7th-grade Almighty, Lu Chui's fighting prowess was extremely powerful. Hence, they should be able to hold Star's Plucker Old Monster back. Star's Plucker Old Monster's expression became gloomy, and he shouted in a low voice, "Huan Gue, why are you still in a daze? If you don't want to present your head to the domain master, then just take Su Yuxian's head." Not good. Huan Gue's cultivation was at the level 5 Almighty realm, and an ordinary Almighty wouldn't be able to protect Su Yuxian. Huan Gue was hiding among the chaos, and when Star's Plucker Old Monster moved, he aimed at Su Yu. "Humph, Su Yuxian, you've ruined my plans again and again. This time, I'll take your life." Huan Gue strode forward, and his powerful aura of a level 5 Divine Master forced back the early-stage Divine Master who was protecting Su Yu. It seemed like Su Yu was being protected by a large number of the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands experts. But in fact, he had no protection at all. He couldn't just sit and wait for death. With his current abilities, even if he exposed his identity as Su Yu, he still wouldn't be a match for a 5th-grade Almighty. The disparity between them was too great. Even if he couldn't face it head-on, Su Yu could still dodge it. Hula! All of a sudden, a scarlet flame with an extremely high temperature surged out of Su Yu's back. Shock appeared on the faces of the early-stage Divine Masters in the vicinity, and they all moved away from it in fear. Those red flames had the power to destroy them. The flames continued to surge, and finally formed a pair of red wings that were 10 feet in size. "You want to leave?" Huan Gue sneered coldly. No matter how strong his secret technique was, it would still be difficult for him to compete with a level 5 Almighty in terms of speed. Swoosh! Su Yu tapped the ground with the tip of his foot, and as the flames flickered, he soared into the sky. In an instant, he traversed hundreds of thousands of miles of clouds and disappeared from his former place. He then stopped in the sky above the desolate, evil jungle. Huan Gue's body appeared in the place where he had just been standing. What secret technique is this? Huan Gue was startled, and he looked at the distant sky. Su Yu's speed wasn't any lower than a level 5 Divine Master's. He had unexpectedly managed to escape from him. Huan Gue's killing intent became more intense, and he knew that this person mustn't be allowed to live. "Let me see where you can escape to." Huan Gue strode forward, and in the next moment, he was only 10 miles away from Su Yu. As for Su Yu, he flapped his scarlet wings and flew around in the sky. He didn't leave the desolate, evil jungle's vicinity, and he just waited there. The 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands reinforcements and experts would shortly arrive. If he flew far away, then even if the reinforcements arrived, they wouldn't be able to help him in time. Su Yu continued flying around in the sky while Huan Gue chased after him, but he still couldn't catch up to Su Yu. Both of them were in a deadlock like this, and time elapsed little by little. Star's Plucker Old Monster's expression became more anxious. "What are you waiting for? Their experts will be here soon." His rebuke made Huan Gue clench his teeth, and he opened his mouth to take out a purple bead. When Lu Chui saw it, her pupils contracted. "A divine gift bead. Su Yu, be careful. Come down quickly." When Su Yu heard Lu Chui's shout, his heart shuddered, and he flew down to the ground without giving this matter any thought. The aura emitted by the bead seemed familiar to him, and it seemed like Gu Taishu had once used it. It was Gu Taishu's ancient bloodline, and all living beings' spiritual energy would be sealed in the area engulfed by its radiance. If Su Yu flew in the sky and lost his vital energy, he wouldn't be able to use the fire essence wings. Then, even if he wasn't killed by Huan Gue, he would still be smashed into meat paste. What a talkative woman! Huan Gue snorted coldly and quickly crushed the purple bead. Crack! As a soft sound echoed, the bead shattered, and a boundless purple radiance shot out of it. When Su Yu was swept by the purple radiance, the vital energy flowing in his body instantly froze, as if it had been frozen. As the fire essence wings lost their spiritual energy support, they gradually shrunk. Su Yu cursed inwardly. There was still a long distance between him and the ground, and if he fell down, he wouldn't have any chance of survival. Moreover, his whole body's vital energy was sealed, and he couldn't even open his spatial ring to take out any magical treasures to help him. Su Yu's heart shuddered, and he became anxious inwardly. All of a sudden, he saw the desolate, evil jungle in the distance. The desolate, evil jungle's trees were extremely tall, and there were even giant trees that were thousands of feet tall. If he could get close to it, he might be able to use the tree's elasticity to cushion his fall. However, Su Yu still had a lingering fear of the desolate, evil jungle's dangers. Even all creations wouldn't be able to survive if they entered it, let alone him. But did he have any other choice at this moment? Rather than falling to his death, he would rather fall into the desolate, evil jungle. Su Yu made up his mind, and before the wings disappeared completely, he changed his direction and glided toward the desolate, evil jungle. Huan Gui immediately realized Su Yu's intentions, and he sneered coldly. Do you still want to survive even now? He had spent several million crystals to buy that gift divine pearl from the black market. It was rumored that it had been made by Gu Taishu himself, and it could give his enemies an unexpected attack at a critical moment. If Su Yu managed to escape after making such a huge sacrifice, wouldn't it be a joke? Sky-suppressing ice. Huan Gui took out a long whip from his sleeves, and as he shook it, a layer of white chilly air gushed out of it. It was extremely cold. As the long whip swept across the place, the chilly air froze the sky's spiritual energy. While Su Yu was gliding, he suddenly felt a powerful chilly air assaulting him, and the fire essence wings on his back were destroyed by it. In just 3 breaths' time, the fire essence wings had shrunk to the size of a palm. Now that he had lost his gliding ability, Su Yu fell down like a heavy boulder. The edge of the desolate, evil jungle was still several thousand feet away from him. Su Yu's heart sank. Hee hee, I'll let you die here. Swoosh. A strong wind blew over, and Huan Gui chased after Su Yu while wearing a cruel smile. He waved the long whip in his hand, and the tip of the whip flew towards Su Yu. Just the chilly air emanating from the whip was enough to take Su Yu's life, let alone the Divine Master's great power contained within it. When the Deputy General Manager, Monk Zhou, and Lu Chuyi saw this scene from afar, they became quite anxious. Star's plucking old monster took advantage of this moment and used his Star's plucking hand to stop them. Su Yu must die. At this critical juncture, a purple-red light appeared in Su Yu's left eye. A formless purple dragon flew out of Su Yu's left eye and coiled around Huan Gui. Huan Gui's body couldn't budge, but he could still think. Shock welled up in his heart. My body has been frozen. This is time power. The long whip had also been frozen. So you didn't want to expose his time power unless he was in a critical situation. However, it was fortunate that they were quite far away from him, and the people below could only vaguely see that Huan Gui's body had been frozen for 3 breaths' time. Swoosh! Su Yu flicked his sleeves, and a thread, which couldn't be seen by the naked eye, flew out and coiled around the long whip. Huan Gui's downward momentum slowed down. At the same time, Su Yu used this fulcrum to swing his body in the air and throw it toward the desolate, evil jungle. Then he took Huan Gui's frozen body with him and slid down the desolate, evil jungle. In 1 breath's time, Su Yu had flown 300 meters. In 2 breaths' time, he had flown 600 meters. In 3 breaths' time, he had flown 900 meters. After Huan Gui's body was frozen for 3 breaths' time, he finally regained control of it. He was both frightened and frightened. Time power. Lad, you. So you turned his head around and said, let's go into the desolate, evil jungle together. Since Huan Gui had been forced into such a desperate situation, Su Yu would obviously take him along with him. Huan Gui didn't wait for Su Yu to loosen his grip on the long whip, and he was brought into the desolate, evil jungle's sky by Su Yu. Huan Gui was scared out of his wits, and he immediately loosened his grip on the long whip. Then he thrust his palms at the air and soared into the sky. He wanted to flee in a hurry and leave the desolate, evil jungle. Swoosh! However, it was at this moment that 2 withered yellow branches streaked across the sky, leaving a black afterimage behind them. They quickly bound Su Yu and Hu Wan Gui and dragged them into the jungle. Ah, no! Hu Wan Gui screamed miserably while he waved his 5 fingers at the withered yellow branches. Clang! When he waved at the withered yellow branches with the power of a level 5 almighty, it was like he was waving at a hard metal, and a clanging sound echoed out. While Hu Wan Gui was still unwilling to accept this, he was forcefully dragged into the forest below. So you couldn't escape his misfortune either. However, the worst-case scenario was that he would fall into the jungle and suffer heavy injuries. The branches that bound him would prevent him from crashing into the ground, which was much better than the worst-case scenario. However, the dangerous part was that the branches were extremely dangerous. If Su Yu remembered correctly, the deputy general manager had once said that the desolate evil jungle would extend a large number of branches at this time every year, and they would devour all spiritual beings along the way and steal their spiritual power. Chapter 890. Bang! He was dragged into the desolate evil jungle. His surroundings were dark yellow, and he could not see more than 100 meters away. Swoosh! At the same time, more vines, like hungry pythons, pounced from all directions and tried to entangle Su Yu. The vines that were entangling Su Yu were tightly wrapped around him and started to absorb the spiritual energy in his body. Su Yu was shocked. The spiritual energy in his dantian was like a broken dam, and he lost 10% of it in an instant. Without any hesitation, Su Yu pinched the silk with his thumb and index finger, quickly entangling the vines that were entangling him. Roar! A mournful roar came from the depths of the jungle. The vines, which even the 5th grade Almighty could not deal with, were cut off. Su Yu was freed, so he immediately rolled on the ground to avoid more vines. Relying on his physical strength, he dashed in a certain direction. Swoosh! 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 The sound of the wind was incessant. Many vines were coming at him from all directions, but Su Yu dodged them easily and nimbly. The direction in which he was fleeing was outside the desolate, evil jungle. However, after a cup of tea's time, Su Yu accidentally caught a glimpse of a broken vine lying quietly on the ground. Su Yu's brows sank as he returned to his original spot. This shouldn't be the case. His sense of direction shouldn't be wrong. So why did he take a detour? Was it the yellow mist? Su Yu furrowed his brows slightly. After checking his body, he found that the purple light had weakened a lot, and the vital energy in his body had recovered a little. Su Yu slapped the air with one hand and soared into the sky, trying to leave the desolate, evil jungle from above. However, even though he was flying straight up, the sky above the yellow mist, which was only a few thousand feet high, seemed endless, and he could not see the end of it. At the same time, the vines behind him attacked him rapidly. Su Yu had no choice but to continue fleeing. Along the way, more vines joined in the chase. When he looked back, he saw that the densely packed tentacles had condensed into a wall, which was flying towards Su Yu. Su Yu's scalp went numb. With so many vines, even a slight touch would cause his vital energy to be sucked dry, and he would die. This place seems to have formed its own space. Once you enter it, you won't be able to leave without a map. You'll only be chased by the vines until your vital energy and physical strength are exhausted, and your spiritual energy will be devoured by them in the end. Su Yu's heart sank, and he finally understood why an all-creation strong man couldn't escape after entering it. While he was fleeing in the forest, Hu Wan Gui also used an unknown secret technique to escape from the vines, and they both fled for their lives in the desolate, evil jungle. The commotion caused the silent, desolate, evil jungle to be filled with angry roars. On the other side of the desolate, evil jungle, 2 beautiful figures, one big and one small, were holding a compass with a broken leg. They were slowly advancing according to the compass. The strange thing was that not only did they not get lost in the desolate, evil jungle, but they also did not encounter any vines chasing them. Roar! Suddenly, a series of indistinct roars could be heard from afar. Ani, what happened? Didn't the sacrifices already feed these evil trees? How did they wake up? Gongsun Wuxia's expression changed. Fairy Ling's pretty face froze. It should be the sacrificial beast that broke free and is being chased by the branches. Damn it. It seems like it's coming for us. Let's go. The two of them had entered the desolate, evil jungle when the sacrificial ritual was about to end, while everyone was concentrating on it. So, they obviously did not know that Suyu was being chased and dragged into the jungle. Damn demonic beast. Why don't you just obediently become the sacrificial offering? We paid a huge price to get the compass that Yamu Daoran used to freely enter and exit the desolate, evil jungle. The little demoness gritted her teeth as she spoke. She felt that she had been really unlucky recently. Ever since she had been molested by Su Yuxian, nothing good had happened to her. Don't talk anymore. Let's change our path and come back to this one later. The two beautiful figures flickered and disappeared. After a long while, Suyu flew past them. We can't keep running like this. Suyu furrowed his brows. All of a sudden, Suyu's heart moved, and a crystal bottle appeared in his space ring. The bottle was filled with 200 grains of golden sand. These grains of sand were like living creatures, and they were jumping around in the bottle. When they were at the sacrificial altar, the golden sand had already started moving. Now that they were in the jungle, the movement was even greater, and it almost caused the crystal bottle to explode. I can only rely on the golden sand left behind by Yamu Daoran. Suyu's heart moved, and he took out a handful of the golden sand and scattered it in the air. All of a sudden, the golden sand rushed toward the depths of the desolate, evil jungle like a meteor. Deeper, Suyu hesitated for a moment, then chose to follow it. Since he couldn't get out of the jungle no matter what, he might as well enter the depths of the jungle to take a look. Before long, Suyu discovered that wherever the golden sand passed, not a single branch or vine appeared. It was as if the golden sand knew a safe path. Apart from the branches and vines that were gradually dwindling behind him, he didn't encounter any new branches and vines along the way. He secretly heaved a sigh of relief, then took a few steps forward to follow the golden sand. After a whole day, Suyu didn't know where the golden sand had taken him. He only knew that the fog here was even thicker, and he couldn't see more than 2 or 3 meters ahead. Moreover, the golden sand was getting faster and faster, and he couldn't slow down. Otherwise, the golden sand would disappear into the fog, and he would be completely lost. Bang! Suyu was chasing after the golden sand at lightning speed. All of a sudden, a black shadow flashed before his eyes, and a human figure appeared. He was in a state of high speed, so he didn't have time to dodge, so he crashed into the other party. Suyu's physical body was already strong, and coupled with the high speed, the crash was more devastating than a few mountains crashing into him. The human figure was sent flying by Suyu. After letting out a horrible shriek, he crashed into a big tree with a bang. Suyu also pounced on him due to inertia, crashing into him for a second time. Puff! Although he couldn't see it, Suyu heard the sound of blood being spat out. Suyu knew that this was bad. Don't kill him by crashing into him. It wasn't easy to meet someone of the same race in the desolate, evil jungle, but he ended up crashing into him as soon as they met. Suyu stepped on the tree trunk, kicked off the ground, and jumped up. At the same time, he grabbed the arm of the person who had been hit. Her arm was slender and soft, like a woman's. Suyu put her down on the ground, but didn't approach her immediately. Instead, he put on the eternal Stone King armor. How could the humans he met in such a vile and dangerous place like the desolate, evil jungle be kind? After putting up the defense, Suyu looked up at the other party. Suyu almost cried out in surprise. Cough, cough. Were you? How dare you bump into me, my waist? A childish and crisp, angry voice came out from the other party's blood-covered mouth. She raised her eyes and stared at Suyu, who was very close to her. Gongsun Wuxia almost bit her tongue. Su Yuxian, why is it you? Wasn't Su Yuxian participating in the sacrificial ceremony in the outside world? Why did he come to the desolate, evil jungle, a forbidden place for humans? Well, that wasn't important. What was important was why did he come all the way here to crash into her? She already had a grudge against Suyu, and now that she was almost killed by him, her little volcano erupted. What kind of grudge do you have against me? Why are you always targeting me? First, He had trampled on the virtual shadow she had left on the 50th floor and robbed her of her privileges. Then, he had molested her in public, and now, he had come all the way here to kill her. Her anger completely exploded. I will kill you, bastard. Gongsun Wuxia was furious. She hadn't died at the hands of the desolate, evil jungle, but had almost died at the hands of Su Yuxian, and she had been killed by him. Gongsun Wuxia raised her small palm and slapped it towards Su Yu's basin. However, the collision just now had injured her, and her sudden attack had aggravated her injuries. Gongsun Wuxia groaned in pain, and her palm fell limply to the ground. Su Yu's heart was racing, and he couldn't explain himself. He had no choice but to take out the healing elixir he had brought from the Tonglin elixir store and stuff one into her mouth. At the same time, he covered her mouth and looked around vigilantly. He said, "I'll explain to you later. Now, please keep quiet. There are many demonic trees here, and they can be easily attracted by sounds." No, your stinky elixir," Gongsun Wuxia mumbled. Gongsun Wuxia said vaguely. The elixir in her mouth gradually turned into medicinal power and flowed into her body, nourishing her internal organs and injuries. Gongsun Wuxia was ashamed and angry at the same time. She glared at Su Yu with her big eyes, and if she hadn't been seriously injured, she would have already pounced on him. Suddenly, Su Yu's vest lit up, and he was alarmed. Without thinking, he grabbed Gongsun Wuxia and rolled on the ground. Poof! The place where he had squatted was hit by a powerful vital energy, leaving a deep pit the size of a palm. If Su Yu hadn't dodged in time, he would have been beaten half to death. He looked back coldly and saw a blurry, graceful figure standing on a branch behind him. She looked a little familiar. Swish! The beautiful figure attacked, and when she was within 3 meters of him, an ice-cold face was revealed. "Fairy Ling, it's you." Su Yu was surprised. Why was she here? Fairy Ling stared at Su Yu, her whole body trembling with anger. She asked Gongsun Wuxia to stay where she was, while she lured away a disturbed branch. Unexpectedly, when she returned, she saw a man's figure forcing Gongsun Wuxia to the roots of a tree. From her perspective, Su Yu's posture of covering her mouth was obviously that of a perverted man. "Su Yuxian, it's you." Fairy Ling was shocked when she saw Su Yu's face. When she realized what was going on, her pretty face turned cold. You shameless, dirty old pervert. Thief, how dare you run into the desolate, evil jungle, chasing after Wuxia and molesting her? I'll kill you." Su Yu felt wronged. It's all a misunderstanding. Fairy, please calm down. Misunderstanding? Is this also a misunderstanding? Fairy Ling berated him. Su Yu lowered his head and saw that he was holding Gongsun Wuxia's waist with one hand, while his other hand was inadvertently pressing on her flat chest. When he looked at Gongsun Wuxia's eyes again, he saw that they were about to burst into tears. She was so angry that she wanted to melt Su Yu. Su Yu's face turned slightly red, and he withdrew his hand resentfully. "I was anxious, so I thought I was being attacked. I didn't do it on purpose." He couldn't help but mutter inwardly. How could he know what part he was pressing on? Letting go of Gongsun Wuxia, Su Yu kept a distance of 5 meters from them, ensuring that he could enter the dense fog at any time. From their conversation, Su Yu could tell that they knew each other, which made him suspicious. Gongsun Wuxia was a student of the Red Blood Palace, while Fairy Ling was the owner of the Tianyao auction house. Were they close? Su Yu thought about the fire essence jade that Gongsun Wuxia had given him. The Ghost Buddha had said that it was a token of the Tianyao auction house's top management. Could Gongsun Wuxia be a member of the Tianyao auction house? Chapter 891. Su Yu stared deeply at the two of them. Given the current situation, he had no choice but to explain himself. He told them frankly, after the sacrificial offering ended, the Heavenly Knife region suffered heavy losses, and they wanted to get rid of me. Left with no choice, I was chased into the desolate, evil jungle. I was in a hurry just now, and I bumped into Wuxia by accident. That's the whole story. Gongsun Wuxia crawled up, her big eyes bulging, her face flushed red, and it was hard to tell whether she was embarrassed or angry. She clenched her silver teeth and clenched her fists tightly. Injured? You're going to die from crash. I'm irreconcilable with you. She was almost driven mad by Suyu. Whether you believe me or not is up to you. Suyu looked at the two of them. Can you tell me how you entered the desolate, evil jungle? You don't look like you were forced to enter. Upon hearing that, Fairy Ling believed him a little. Before they left, Suyu had already pulled the score to more than 2,000 points. It was reasonable for the people of the Heavenly Knife region to shed all pretense of cordiality on the spot. We have our own objectives. I'm just curious as to how you managed to reach the inner area by yourself. Fairy Ling questioned. They had entered and exited this place with the help of Taoist Yamu's compass. Even so, they had encountered a few evil trees along the way. How did Suyu do it? The inner periphery? Suyu's eyes flickered slightly. They had a deep understanding of the desolate, evil jungle, so they could clearly distinguish the inner periphery. After muttering to himself for a moment, Suyu took out a bottle of golden sand and said, "These sands were left behind by Yamu Daoran, and I followed their guidance to come here. I'm willing to share them with you, provided that you allow me to share some information with you." Golden sand? Both of them didn't recognize the origin of the object, but they believed most of it. Hence, it was hard for them to believe that Suyu had come here by accident. Dream on. Why should I share the news with you? Gongsun Wuxie glared at Suyu angrily. Fairy Ling interrupted her, her beautiful eyes flashing. What do you want to know? Everything, Suyu said. Fairy Ling stared at the golden sand in Suyu's bottle, pondered for a moment, then nodded slowly. All right. We flipped through the ancient books and learned that the desolate, evil jungle came from the starry sky and has the ability to decompose everything. Fairy Ling said, the reason why the winner of the sacrifice will receive pure energy is because the desolate, evil jungle decomposes the spiritual objects it sacrifices into pure energy. Most of it will be used for its own growth, and a small portion will be given to the person who makes the sacrifice. In order to find the source of this disintegration ability, we took the risk to enter. There are only two things that we know about this place. First, it is divided into the inner area and the outer area. The outer area is where the evil trees are. I believe you have seen them before. They have branches and vines that can absorb the spiritual energy of spiritual objects. They are dead trance. After they died, their bodies were occupied by filthy and evil creatures. The inner periphery was the Wood Clan's territory, and there were often ancient bronze tree men patrolling the area. They were very powerful, with the lowest cultivation being a 7th grade Almighty, and the highest being a 9th grade Almighty. Once we encounter it, we will definitely die. Secondly, once we pass through the inner area, we'll reach the Fountain of Life. That's the source of disintegration. Yamu Daoist once obtained the Fountain of Life, so he was able to break through the shackles and reach the realm of Jiuzhou's king. Upon hearing this, Suyu understood. The Fountain of Life. It turned out that they had come for it. The realm of Jiuzhou's king was too far away from Suyu's, so he did not desire the Fountain of Life. However, since they had dared to enter, they must have a way to leave. This was what Suyu valued the most. I understand. Before we leave the desolate, evil jungle, I hope we can trust each other. If you die, it will only bring me more harm than good, Suyu said. Fairy Ling said, likewise. If you die, I won't get any benefits. Instead, I'll have an ancient book of the heart's oaths that I can't complete for no reason. It'll be troublesome for my training. As long as you don't do anything that threatens our safety, I won't hurt you. When we came in, we used the compass that Yamu Daoist once used. However, it's been a long time, so it's not very accurate. Along the way, there was a deviation which put us in danger. If you have a more accurate method, you could show it to us. Fairy Ling put away the compass. Suyu glanced at it and was slightly delighted. In other words, as long as he walked in the opposite direction that the compass pointed out, he would be able to walk out of the desolate, evil jungle. Now that he had nothing to worry about, Suyu started thinking about the inner periphery. Since he had come all the way here, he was very curious about where the golden sand would take him. After reaching an agreement, the group of people put aside their previous enmity and hurried on with Suyu's golden sand. Every time, Suyu released a grain of golden sand. They would chase after him with all their might. When they couldn't catch up and the golden sand disappeared into the mist, Suyu would take out another grain. In this way, although there were frequent accidents that caused them to be unable to catch up with the golden sand in time, Suyu had a lot of golden sand, so he didn't get lost. Fairy Ling's eyes lit up. The golden sand is much more useful than the compass, and it's not afraid of the thick mist. You're lucky to have obtained the golden sand left behind by Yaomu Daoist. Suyu shrugged his shoulders and was about to reply when his face suddenly froze, and he gradually stopped in his tracks. Fairy Ling also pulled Gongsun Wuxia back, a grave look on her face. The air has changed. It's much fresher, Suyu said. Fairy Ling nodded slightly. Indeed, they noticed the subtle changes in their surroundings, and their hearts gradually became restless. That's because you've trespassed into my clan's holy land. A dull, obscure language suddenly came from 30 feet in front of them. Fairy Ling and Gongsun Wuxia didn't understand it, but Suyu did. It was the Mu language. Oh no, it's the ancient bronze tree men. Suyu's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately recalled what Fairy Ling had said about the ancient bronze tree men patrolling the inner periphery. Rustle. There was a soft sound like the sound of countless leaves shaking. Then, a cool breeze blew, blowing away the surrounding mist. 1,000 feet tall ancient bronze tree stood in the middle of the road, just 30 feet in front of them. Suyu and the others stood under the tree, looking as weak as ants. The ancient bronze tree was emitting a bronze metallic luster. If not for the green leaves and tree veins, as well as the strong scent of wood, it would be hard to believe that it was a tree. Even stranger, the Mu language reverberated from within the ancient bronze tree. Those who trespass into my clan's holy land will die. The ancient bronze tree exuded a soul-stirring scent, and its powerful spiritual pressure made Suyu's blood boil, and the vital energy in his body went out of control. Suyu said in the Mu language, "Elder, we didn't mean to disturb the holy land, and we were forced to trespass. Please forgive us." You know the Mu language? The ancient bronze tree was surprised. "But you still have to die." Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Fairy Ling's face fell, and she grabbed Gongsun Wuxia with one hand and Suyu with the other. Her beautiful figure flickered as she retreated 1,000 feet. Just as they were about to continue retreating, another terrifying scent appeared behind them. Beneath the yellow mist, a towering tree broke through the ground. It was also bronze in color, and it blocked Suyu and the others' path of retreat. Then, terrifying scents appeared from a few other directions, and 7 or 8 towering trees rose from the ground. Suyu and the rest of them were completely surrounded. "Humph! How could we not know that you caused such a commotion in the periphery? We've been waiting for you here for a long time." The first ancient bronze tree said coldly. They had been prepared. Fairy Ling asked in a low voice, "What are they talking about?" Suyu repeated their words, and Fairy Ling's face fell. Among the 9 ancient bronze tree men, the weakest was a 7th grade Almighty, and the strongest was the one who had spoken, an 8th grade Almighty. She could barely fend off one of them, let alone so many of them. She couldn't even escape. Buzz. At that moment, another ancient bronze tree man appeared from another direction. A human figure was tied to its trunk by vines. It was none other than Hu Wangue, who had been dragged into the desolate, evil jungle with them. In the end, he hadn't managed to escape. Not a single bit of spiritual energy could be sensed from his body, and his body was shriveled like a withered tree. He was on the verge of death, and his aura was extremely weak. It was hard to believe that he was the 5th grade Almighty Hu Wangue. "My lord, we found the last one." The ancient bronze tree man left the shriveled Hu Wangue behind. The first ancient bronze tree man said coldly, "Sucked dry by the evil tree? Well, plant a seed in his body to nourish the next generation of tree men." It meant that Hu Wangue's body would be used as the soil to cultivate the tree men's seeds. Moreover, The essence of Hu Wangue's flesh would be sucked dry little by little while he was still alive, and the tree men would slowly die as if they were being tortured in hell. Such a cruel method made Su Yu suck in a breath of cold air. However, in the eyes of the tree men, it was a matter of course. It was just like how humans killed living creatures and ate their flesh to replenish their hunger. It was a necessity for survival. What about them? The ancient bronze tree man asked. The 8th grade almighty ancient bronze tree man said coldly, since they're alive, they're obviously used to nurture the next generation of tree men. Plant a seed in their bodies. What do they say? Fairy Ling asked blankly. Su Yu repeated their words. Fairy Ling's scalp went numb when she heard it. She was both shocked and furious. She turned her gaze and led Gongsun Wuxia away. Even if they were to die, they wouldn't die in such a cruel way. Pow! However, a tree branch whipped Fairy Ling's body like a phantom, causing her to spit blood and fly backward. At the same time, several branches coiled around her and Gongsun Wuxia, restraining them. They couldn't escape even if they wanted to. Since you're here, don't even think about leaving. The leading ancient bronze tree man snorted coldly. Capture that human too. One of the ancient bronze tree men waved its branches and charged towards Su Yu. Su Yu said, wait. If you kill me, who will save the tree men? Upon hearing this, the leader of the tree men sneered. Save us? A lowly human? Ha! A dull voice reverberated in its body. Mark? Su Yu's enunciations were clear, and he spoke a few words in the Wood Clan's language. The leader of the tree men's laughter stopped abruptly. The surrounding tree men swayed as they discussed among themselves in shock. The lost ancient Mu language. Even we tree men don't know much about it. How does a human know about it? The leader of the tree men said coldly. Human, why do you think I'll let you go just by reciting a few lost ancient Mu language? Su Yu replied calmly. If not, what's the purpose of setting up the sacrificial altar? What he had just recited were the golden words of the 45th round of the sacrificial altar. Although Su Yu didn't necessarily recognize all of them, he had memorized them all. You tree men, if you really want the sacrifice, you can just plunder it yourself. No one in the Jojo continent can stop you. So why bother setting up the sacrificial altar? If I'm not mistaken, the sacrifice is just the surface. What you really want is for a human to decipher the ancient words on the sacrificial altar. Su Yu's eyes were filled with a profound light of wisdom. The group of tree men fell silent, as if Su Yu had seen through them. Human, what makes you think that you're saving us tree men? There are thousands of races in the starry sky, and you humans are just low-grade living creatures. The leader of the tree men said in an unkind tone. Su Yu laughed. Then, why did the high-grade tree men fall into the Jojo continent and get trapped here, unable to leave? The leader of the tree men was speechless. After a long silence, Fairy Ling and Gongsun Wuxia felt that the tree men were acting strangely, and they were extremely surprised. What did Su Yu say to them? Fine, I won't plant any seeds in you for the time being. Come with me to meet Lord Enmu, the leader of the tree men said. Su Yu pointed at Fairy Ling and Gongsun Wuxia. Let them go too. Human, don't push your luck. Trespassing into the Holy Land has always led to death, and there's no exception for all living creatures. You might even survive, so how can you care about them? The leader of the tree men was displeased. Su Yu crossed his arms in front of his chest and stood still. His meaning was obvious. He wouldn't leave until the tree men were released. He was determined to win the tree men. The leader of the tree men said, Who are they to you? If they aren't important people, there's no need to let them go. They weren't very familiar with Su Yu, and they could only be considered acquaintances. Since they were exploring together, Su Yu had no reason not to save them. They are important people. Su Yu nodded. The leader of the tree men looked at them and said, I understand now. They are female, and you are male. They are your mating partners, right? Su Yu was startled. Wait, what do you understand? Let them go, the leader of the tree men said. At the same time, he said to Su Yu, Tell your mating partners that if they dare to run away, they'll be pulled to plant trees immediately. Fairy Ling and Gongsun Wuxia were released, and they were bewildered. They flew to Su Yu's side, not daring to act recklessly. "Su Yu, what'd you say to these tree men? Why'd they let us go?" Gongsun Wuxia looked at Su Yu, feeling extremely curious. Although she was still hostile towards Su Yu, she couldn't help but ask. Su Yu smacked his lips and wondered, "Should I tell them that the tree men consider them my wives? Oh no, my mating partners?" When this thought appeared in his mind, Su Yu shuddered. He didn't want to do that, as neither of them had a good temper. "So, it wouldn't be a big deal to hide it from them. I just promised to make a deal with them. I told them that you were my friends, and they would let you go for now," Su Yu said calmly. "From now on, don't act recklessly unless you're in danger." Gongsun Wuxia looked at Su Yu suspiciously. "Really? Why do I feel like you're lying?" Su Yu felt guilty, so he pretended that he didn't hear her. Fairy Ling nodded earnestly. "Fine. If you can really turn the situation around, the Tianyao auction house will owe you a favor. Human, bring your mating partners and follow me to meet Lord Enmu," the leader of the tree men said. Su Yu curled his lips. "Can you change the way you address them? Mating partners are only for animals, and they aren't suitable for humans." "Sure, call them estrus partners," the leader of the tree men said. Chapter 892. The tree men couldn't walk upright, but they could burrow into the earth. There was a wide and deep passage underground. It was pitch black, and the tree men used their roots to glide along the stone walls of the passage like octopuses. Their seemingly clumsy, huge bodies were moving very quickly in the passage. "This doesn't look like it was dug by you tree men, does it?" Su Yu's eyes shone brightly as he glanced at the interior of the stone wall, which was full of marks left by many weapons. "It was the help of your human race's almighty experts," the chief tree man said without turning his head. Su Yu pondered. "Enslaved humans?" The chief tree man snorted. "Lowly creatures like humans are not worth enslaving. It was your human race's almighty experts who volunteered." "Volunteered?" Su Yu was confused. Didn't they say that creatures who entered the desolate, evil jungle couldn't leave? How could there be a human almighty expert helping them? A name appeared in Su Yu's mind. "It was Yamu Daoran," Su Yu murmured. It was rumored that he was the only one who could freely enter and exit the desolate, evil jungle. There were no exceptions. The chief tree man nodded. "Yes, he was bestowed by our tree god, and he volunteered to help us by opening up a passage for us tree men." "Tree god? Who?" The chief tree man paused for a moment, then said proudly, "Human, if you can really help us tree men, the tree god won't mistreat you. Perform well in front of Enmu." After traveling for hundreds of miles, a faint light suddenly appeared in the pitch-black underground passage. It was as bright and dazzling as a blazing sun. They had reached the exit. Su Yu closed his eyes and felt a ray of warm sunlight falling on his cheek. He slowly opened his eyes, and a sense of amazement appeared in his eyes. The misty world was gone forever. The sky was blue, and the waves were boundless. Tens of thousands of ancient bronze tree men of various sizes were growing upright. The grass was long, and the orioles were flying. Spring flowers were gorgeous, and all kinds of creatures were running about. Birds were chirping, and the fragrance of flowers was everywhere. It was a peaceful scene. "Is this a paradise?" Su Yu murmured. No one would have thought that the interior of the desolate, evil jungle, which was known for its evil and dangerous dangers, was a beautiful world as bright as a pearl. "We've arrived at the Holy Land. Follow me." The chief tree man's body shone with a bronze light, and his tall body gradually shrank, gradually assuming a human form. His body was stout, and his whole body was painted with wood veins. His facial features looked like they had been carved by a knife, reflecting the light of wood. Although their form and appearance were similar to humans, there was a huge difference. An adult ancient bronze treant can transform into the form of a deity, but it can only last for 2 hours. "There is no need to transform unless necessary," the ancient bronze treant said. "The form of a god?" Su Yu was astonished. "Isn't this the human form?" As if he had seen through Su Yu's thoughts, the leader of the tree men snorted and said, "This is not the form of a human, but the mentality of a deity." All living beings will eventually evolve into the form of gods. You humans are just born with the form of gods. Don't think that we, the noble trance, will change into your appearance. The form of God, the ultimate form of all things? So you felt that there were too many unknowns in the world. The starry sky, the 10,000 races, and the divine beings were all unknown mysteries. It was Suyu's first time seeing the tree man before him. The treant leader led them through the endless forest. Along the way, there were countless ancient bronze treants, at least tens of thousands. According to their cultivation, the lowest was a 7th grade almighty, and the highest was a 9th grade almighty. Once they rushed out of the desolate, evil jungle, they would be able to destroy the blessed and heavenly lands 10 times over. No matter how great the central prefecture was, it would still be difficult to defend against the Trent's invasion. Of course, the tree men's weakness was their bodies. They could only run around in the form of gods for 2 hours on the ground, so they were easily restrained by the human race. Fairy Ling's beautiful eyes were filled with shock. With so many tree men occupying a corner of the Jojo continent and standing side by side with Jojo is a piece of cake. There's so many tree men. It would be fun if they could be tamed. Gongsun Wuxia's eyes rolled. Your courage is commendable. A clear and bright laugh was heard. Moreover, it was spoken in the human language. At the end of the forest, there was a clear lake. It was like a mirror embedded in a dark green grassland. An old man in a green robe was sitting by the lake. His back was facing them, and he was fishing with a fishing rod in his hand. Gongsun Wuxia pouted. Old man, you're trying to mystify us. I'm not afraid of you. Suyu and Fairy Ling's eyes flickered as they stared at the old man's back. A human? The old man put down the fishing rod and turned back with a smile. When they turned back, they realized that the old man's skin was silvery white, and there were wood patterns circling on his face. He was from the Wood Clan. Do you know the human language? Suyu asked. The silver-faced old man wore a smile. There was once a human who taught me a little, so I know a thing or two. Lord Enmu, they are here, the ancient bronze tree men's leader said. All right, you may go. 2 other humans have also barged in. They seem to have found the way to the fountain of life. Capture them. The silver-faced old man was Lord Enmu, whom the ancient bronze tree men's leader had mentioned. He knew everything in the desolate, evil jungle like the back of his hand. Enmu looked at Suyu and the other 2. His gaze swept past Fairy Ling, and he paused for a moment on Gongsun Wuxia. He then chuckled and said, The grass of immortality. You're just a tiny human, but you're really lucky to have mistakenly consumed such a sacred herb of the spiritual grass clan. You've come here to use the fountain of life to cleanse its medicinal effects, haven't you? Fairy Ling stood in front of Gongsun Wuxia without batting an eyelid. She was shocked that Enmu could see through the details of Gongsun Wuxia's body. Even in all creation, old monster couldn't do it. You've come to the wrong place. The fountain of life can decompose all living things, except for the Wood Clan. The spiritual grass clan and the tree men clan belong to the Wood Clan, so it's difficult to decompose, Enmu explained patiently. It's useless? Fairy Ling and Gongsun Wuxia didn't believe him, and they weren't willing to accept it. If the fountain of life was useful, we wouldn't have allowed our clan's corpses to be invaded by the evil spirits in the periphery. We still can't expel them, and we still have to ask you humans for help. Enmu sighed, and his eyes shone as he looked at Suyu. After Yaomu Daoran, you're the only living being who's proficient in the ancient Wood Clan's language. We've been waiting for you for a long time. It was just as Suyu had expected. The tree men really needed help. Please tell me the whole story first, Suyu said. Enmu nodded, and with a light wave of his palm, innumerable tree roots shot out from the ground, entangling Fairy Ling and Gongsun Wuxia and pulling them underground. Don't be anxious, young human. I don't want anyone else to hear what I'm about to say, Enmu said. They've just been brought to a safe place, and they'll meet you again in a while. They'll also give you some small gifts. Suyu loosened his fingers that were pinching the silk thread. Enmu was unfathomable, and his intuition told him that he wasn't any weaker than any of the 5 golden light guards. This is what happened. 10,000 years ago, the tree god was plotted against by an old friend, and it escaped from the starry sky. It accidentally fell on the Jeojo continent, and it was severely injured, becoming weaker day by day. Hence, it's trapped here, unable to move, Imu said. Suyu heard the tree god's name again, and he asked, "Who's the tree god?" "Our god," Imu replied, his face full of reverence. "We, the ancient bronze tree men, rely on the tree god to survive. In the past, the ancient bronze tree men clan was flourishing, and in our heyday, we had 1,000,000 ancient bronze tree men. However, ever since we fell on Jeojo, the tree god fell into a deep sleep, and without his protection, it was as if we had lost our souls. A large number of tree men withered, and died gradually. Moreover, without the tree god's purification, they were corroded by the evil spirits, and they became evil man-eating evil trees. In the last few thousand years, the situation has become even more serious. Without the tree god's nourishment, the number of newly born tree men has become fewer and fewer. Now, only 1 or 2 tree men seeds can be successfully nurtured every year. If this goes on, even I will die in less than a few hundred years." Suyu then said, "So, you didn't just sit and wait for death?" Imu nodded. "Yes, we tried to find a way back then. The tree god's injuries were caused by the evil seal's power. This seal was set up using the ancient Mu words, and it attached itself to the tree men's bodies, absorbing the tree god's divine energy. This is why the tree god withered and withered day by day. In that case, the so-called old friend who had plotted against the tree god was also a Mu, and he was proficient in the ancient Mu words that the ancient bronze tree men were unfamiliar with. The seal wasn't to be feared, as the tree god relied on its purification power to break the seal easily. The problem was that many of the ancient Mu words used to set up the seal were related to the lost ancient Mu words, and the tree god couldn't recognize them one by one. If it could recognize all of them, it would be much easier to break the seal." He then added, "So, we pinned our hopes on this desolate Jeojo continent, hoping that one day an expert who could understand the ancient Mu words would appear. After waiting for 5,000 years, a Yamu, Daoran, appeared. Unfortunately, he only managed to decipher 20% of the ancient Mu words before his lifespan came to an end, and he died of old age. Although the tree men helped him cultivate to the mortal fairy realm, allowing him to live for another 4,000 years, it's a pity that the human's lifespan is too short, and he still died in the end." Inmu sighed and lifted his head to look at Suyu. Excitement flickered in his eyes as he said, "I thought it would end here, and that the ancient bronze tree men would be buried in the desolate land. But here you are." He then added, "Even if you didn't enter the desolate, evil jungle, I decided to step out of it myself and bring you in." After understanding the whole story, Suyu took a light breath. It sounded like the tree god was an extremely terrifying being. He had easily pushed a human to the mortal fairy realm. It seemed that the so-called 9 great prefectures' kings had all reached the mortal fairy realm. I can't guarantee that I've deciphered all the ancient Mu words, but I can guarantee that I'll do my best. Suyu's eyes flickered as he said, "But what kind of guarantee can you give me?" Their lives were still in the hands of the ancient bronze tree men. "We, the ancient bronze tree men, aren't a race that likes to kill. We were forced to use the flesh and blood of living creatures to reproduce. If you can decipher the seal on the tree god's body and restore it, we won't have to kill anymore." Imu stared at Suyu as he said, "Moreover, you can get the tree god's reward. Think about it. Yamu Daoran was just an all-creation strong man with mediocre aptitudes among the humans, but he reached the mortal fairy realm with the tree god's help. If you can help the tree god even more, the benefits you'll get will be unimaginable." Suyu needed the benefits, but he didn't really need them. What was important was his life. "Fine, I hope you can keep your word," Suyu said. Inmu smiled. "Come with me. Before we meet the tree god, I'll take you to the place where Yamu Daoran passed away. He left behind some ancient words which might be useful to you."